Under a full moon, the time has come for a fated confrontation. Years ago, the demonic sect destroyed their clan, leaving the survivors with a single burning purpose. Tonight, the final survivor will claim his revenge. A lone warrior moves like a phantom, scaling the walls of the enemy fortress. He ambushes a sentry, closing in for a silent takedown. A single, swift strike ensures his infiltration remains undetected. But Kang Seowon is on a timer. He must finish his mission before an alarm is raised. Deep within, the heavenly demon, Kang Woncheon, is disturbed from his meditation. His demonic red eye snaps open, sensing a deadly intrusion. Kang Seowon makes his entrance, tossing a dead subordinate at the demon's feet. Unimpressed, Kang Woncheon rises to face the reckless young warrior. He scoffs at the idea of caring for his underlings, comparing them to insects crushed on the path to power. True strength, he proclaims, is achieved by staring only at the peak, ignoring all sacrifice. At the demon's twisted philosophy, Kang Seowon's rage finally ignites. Crackling with electrical energy, he launches himself forward to begin the final battle. He unleashes his signature technique, the Heavenly Lightning Fist. Yet, the heavenly demon is unfazed, mocking the boy's meager power. With a terrifying amount of blood-red energy, he prepares to show the warrior a lesson in true power. He channels his heavenly blood-tied art, forming a deadly sword keyblade with his bare hand. Blue lightning clashes violently against the crimson blade. The young warrior is immediately overwhelmed, his lightning scattered by the demon's sheer power. Promising to send the boy to his father, the heavenly demon declares the fight over. But as a new power surges from Seowon, the demon's confidence vanishes. Seowon breaks through the attack with an even stronger move, the Transcend Heavenly Divine Palm. The heavenly demon watches as his legendary steel-like defenses are shattered by his opponent's bare hands. The lightning-infused palm strikes true, coursing through the demon's body. Panting, Seowon warns the tyrant to never speak of his father again. Coughing blood, Kang Woncheon curses himself for not wiping out the entire Cloud Dragon sect when he had the chance. Driven into a corner, the demon pulls out a mysterious elixir. Kang Seowon watches in horror, recognizing the vial's sinister purpose. To drink that much at once is to guarantee demonic key deviation, a fate worse than death. Ignoring the danger, the heavenly demon shatters the vial and consumes its contents. A violent torrent of unstable purple energy erupts from his body. He screams as the overwhelming power begins to corrupt and twist his very being. The key deviation transforms him into a monster of pure destructive power. The raw energy lashes out, throwing Kang Seowon across the room. The young warrior grits his teeth, struggling to stand against the immense pressure. The creature roars, unleashing a final overwhelming attack. But at the last second, a calm voice casts a single spell, Barrier. A shimmering green shield materializes, completely nullifying the demon's attack. Kang Seowon can only stare at the impossible intervention. A robed great mage strolls in, casually apologizing for being late. The mage playfully asks if this monster is the nemesis he'd heard so much about. But then the entire scene shatters, revealing it was all just a story in a book. And its reader, Jin Seowon, slams it shut. A mage has just ruined his favorite Muram novel. This is our true protagonist, 23 years old and adrift. Discharged from the military 6 months ago, he's supposed to be studying for college. Instead, his days are lost to friends begging him to come play video games. His ambitions of studying were quickly forgotten once he rediscovered all the fun he'd missed. A Muram fanatic and gaming addict, he heads to his usual haunt, the local internet cafe. His dedication paid off. He became a top 10 ranker in his favorite game just 3 months after his discharge. Putting on his headset, he tells his friend he's logging in. He launches the Battle Royale shooter, Loyal Ground. The rules are simple. 100 players drop, and only one survives. With his expert game sense, he spots 2 enemies the moment he lands. In a flash, both are eliminated. With the field thinning, he tells his spectating teammate to be quiet so he can focus. Elsewhere, the remaining players hunt for the deadly skull-masked opponent. One of them spots untouched loot, believing the area is safe. As he moves for the bait, he fails to notice the shadow creeping up behind him. Jin Seowon, the skull-masked hunter, prepares to spring his trap. The greedy player is instantly eliminated. Panicked, the final enemy makes a desperate run for it. But there's no escape from a top 10 ranker. With a final, decisive kill, he once again claims victory. His friend celebrates getting carried while Jin Seowon just queues up for the next match. Logging off late, he makes the familiar, empty promise to start studying tomorrow. Just as he's about to relax, his phone buzzes. A message from his mom, sending money for an academy he isn't attending, lands like a stone in his gut. He quickly lies to his friend, claiming he has to go to his English academy. The weight of his deception presses down on him as he walks home alone. That night, he stumbles on a strange news clip, people with mysterious powers appearing, calling themselves players. But as he tries to watch the video, the entire page deletes itself. The next day, as he walks through an alley, an eerie purple light pools at his feet. The strange glow intensifies, bathing the alley in its sinister light. A cold dread washes over him as he turns to face the phenomenon. His own hands are glowing, pulsing with an unnatural energy. A blinding flash of light engulfs him as he cries out. He is lifted into the air as his body dissolves into particles of light. In an instant, he vanishes, leaving only his backpack behind. Jin Sewon materializes in a grassy field, the world spinning around him. He's no longer just reading the story, he's been summoned inside it. Jin Sewon awakens on the grass, pulled from unconsciousness by shouting in a strange language. He finds himself in the middle of a tense standoff between warriors and mages from a world of fantasy. Before he can process the chaos, swords clash inches from his face. A mage chants an incantation, and lightning splits the air. Utterly alone in a crowd of impossible beings, he can only wonder where he is. A voice suddenly rings inside his head, announcing the presence of 100 players. As the eyes of a great stone statue begin to glow, the system announces its initialization. The term system catches his attention instantly. Language synchronization completes, and the foreign babble suddenly resolves into perfect Korean. With the language barrier gone, a martial artist immediately confronts his rival, declaring their fated battle is at hand. Nearby, the elf mage Chiron accuses the skeletal escrow of orchestrating their arrival. Escrow only cackles, boasting that all will soon kneel before the Demon King's power. Chiron's staff crackles with energy as he makes a solemn vow. He will kill Escrow here and now, then finish the Demon King himself. He unleashes a massive torrent of lightning directly at his foe. But his ultimate spell has no effect. Escrow stands completely unharmed, patting down the scorched air where the spell impacted. The system's voice cuts through the confusion, announcing the start of the game. The first rules appear, attacks are disabled in the waiting area, and the goal is to make the top 90. A massive holographic map of the King Kingdom's capital materializes in the sky. The Game Master begins an explanation for the newcomers to Cloyd's survival. The game will last 100 days on a shrinking map until only one survivor remains. While elimination means returning home, failure to make the top 90 means being locked out of your world forever. A battle royale, the format is identical to his favorite game, Loyal Ground. But looking at the monstrously powerful players around him, he knows this is no game. The cold dread of his own mortality grips him. But if this world runs on game logic, then his expert knowledge is the ultimate weapon. Just then, an aggressive knight gets his attention by calling him Messy Hair. The knight demands to know where he's from, his hand gripping his massive sword. Seo-woon's silence only fuels the man's rage. But as the knight raises his blade to strike, a countdown begins and a smirk plays on Seo-woon's lips. The knight can only stare, baffled by his opponent's sudden laughter. The countdown ends, and Seo-woon's smirk widens into a grin of pure confidence. He gives the knight a parting gift, certain his game expertise will crush amateurs like him. The game begins, and all 100 players are launched into the sky. As they plummet toward the battlefield, Seo-woon analyzes their descent. Most are diving for crowded areas. A rookie mistake he has no intention of making. He'll play it safe, farming items on the outskirts while the others tear each other apart. An isolated house on the edge of the map becomes his target. With a shout, he angles his body, diving straight for his landing zone. He hits the ground with concussive force, landing beside the secluded house. He sticks the landing, ready for action. He makes a beeline for the house, desperate to arm himself. But a sudden rustle from inside puts him on high alert. His head still spinning from the drop, he can't be sure if anyone else landed with him. Unarmed, he's a dead man. He sprints inside to find a weapon before it's too late. He slams the door, his heart pounding against his ribs. Provoking that night now seems like a terrible mistake. With the immediate area clear, his focus shifts to finding supplies. His search yields a heavy crossbow, but its weight is far greater than he expected. He equips the weapon, and the knowledge of how to use it floods his mind. But his military training as a sergeant kicks in. He knows how to handle a weapon like this. He takes aim, instinctively finding the firing mechanism. With a sharp thwomp, he test fires a bolt across the room. The bolt sinks deep into a wooden beam, a testament to the weapon's terrifying power. A satisfied grin spreads across his face. This will do nicely. Now armed, he heads back outside to continue his search. His plan is simple. Farm items safely while avoiding early game fights. He cautiously enters another house, crossbow raised, ready for a fight. Inside, his eyes are drawn to a magical, glowing scroll on a table. He approaches the mysterious item, wondering what power it holds. The system identifies it as a healing scroll, capable of mending injuries. He makes a mental note, recovery items are a top priority. Just then, a powerful purple aura pulses from a nearby bookshelf. It's a martial arts book, the Black Star Chi Palms technique. The system prompts him to learn the skill, and he accepts without hesitation. The book bursts into a vortex of purple energy that envelops him. Ancient martial knowledge flows directly into his mind. He looks down at his hands, feeling a new and dangerous power surging within them. Purple energy gathers in his palm, a physical manifestation of his new skill. To test this power, he unleashes the technique, launching a nearby fork like a bullet. The fork embeds itself deep into the wooden beam with explosive force. He didn't just find a weapon, he became one. He tests his new strength, embedding a simple fork deep into a wooden beam. A familiar grin spreads across his face. This world plays by rules he understands. If martial arts exist, so does magic. Coin Survival is just a game he mastered under a new name. But with the sun rising, he needs to find cover, fast. Through the trees, a single lit house beckons like a trap. His gamer instincts tell him a place like this either holds rare loot or another player lying in ambush. With his crossbow raised, he pushes the door open, ready for whatever is inside. He steps into the darkness, sweeping the room for any sign of a threat. The first floor is silent, too silent. A bead of sweat traces a path down his temple. He steels himself, trusting his weapon and newfound chi to even the odds. With cautious steps, he begins to ascend to the second floor. Reaching the top, he takes aim down the hallway, preparing for an attack. But what he sees at the end of the hall makes his eyes widen. It's just a lantern. He approaches warily, every nerve on high alert. This has to be a trap. His eyes lock onto the only other place an enemy could be hiding. In an instant, his decision is made. He abandons stealth, kicking the door in with explosive force. He lands in a combat stance, prepared for immediate battle. He whips his head around, searching for the hidden enemy. But there's no one there. The room is completely empty. He slumps to his knees, cursing his own paranoid dramatic entrance. But then, his gaze falls upon a glowing prize on the desk. A ring of strength, promising a massive boost to his power. He slides the ring onto his finger. A surge of raw power courses through him, making his whole body tremble. The crossbow on his back suddenly feels as light as a feather. The true scale of a 20-point strength increase finally registers. He calls out for his status window just like in the game. His stats are low, but learning a martial art has officially upgraded his class to Martial Artist. Compared to starting with nothing, this is a hell of an upgrade. His continued search of the house reveals another treasure. He equips the subspace ring, a new and powerful prize. A system window appears, explaining its function, a portable inventory. He no longer needs to carry his supplies by hand. He tests it, and a swirling portal of cosmic energy opens from his hand. His hand passes through the strange void, storing his gear instantly. Now geared up, he turns his attention to the bigger picture. He pulls up the game's interface, checking the survivor count. 99 remain. The game has barely begun. A chilling memory resurfaces. The monstrously powerful players from the waiting room. Direct confrontation is suicide. His only path to victory is survival. But there's time for one more looting run before dawn. He moves through the forest, his new strength making the journey effortless. But his enhanced body still feels hunger, a grim reminder of the survival in this game. Pangs of hunger drive him forward toward the next town. A low growl from the darkness shatters the silence. A monstrous shape emerges from the shadows. He's being hunted. Every survival instinct screams at him to run. Ice floods his veins. The creature had stalked him in perfect silence. A glance over his shoulder confirms the beast is still on his tail. Terror floods his vision as he gets a clear look at his pursuer. It's a werewolf, a nightmare made real, and it's closing in. He twists his body, barely dodging a lightning-fast swipe of its claws. And then the true horror of the situation sets in. He's not being hunted by one, but by a pack. The indignity of a top-tier gamer dying to a common mob fuels his desperate flight. Just as his stamina fails, a glimmer of hope appears through the trees. He bursts through the door and slams it shut, sealing himself inside. He collapses against the wall, gasping for breath. But the snarls from outside tell him he isn't safe. He is cornered, trapped with monsters clawing at the door. He peers through a crack in the wall, his heart pounding against his ribs. The werewolves circle the house, sniffing the air, tracking him by scent. He knows hiding is no longer an option. He has to attack first. He raises his crossbow, taking aim through a small gap in the door. A single bolt streaks through the darkness. It strikes true, and the beast lets out a pained, furious roar. To his astonishment, the monster dissolves into shards of light. But his momentary triumph is shattered. The last werewolf smashes through the door, its red eyes burning with rage. He throws himself aside as claws that could tear him in two shred the air where he stood. Another swipe nearly takes his head off. This creature is a different class of monster. Pushed into a corner, he is completely outmatched by its raw power. He fires a desperate shot, but the beast swats the bolt aside with its bare hand. The monster lunges, and his crossbow clatters to the floor as he stumbles back. Cornered and disarmed, a final, desperate gamble takes shape. He summons the fort from his inventory, channeling all his black-star chi into the simple utensil. With a final cry of defiance, he thrusts his palm forward, driving the weapon deep into the werewolf's chest. He will not be eliminated by some nameless mob. Instead of a corpse, a loot chest materializes, but Jin Saroon's attention is on the fire burning nearby. A smug fire mage named Chiron gloats over his kill, oblivious to the new threat sneaking up behind him. He callously calls his victim an unlucky bastard, a bug to be stepped on. The mage turns his attention to the spoils of his hunt. Watching from the shadows, Seo-woon knows that without a move, he could be the next victim. In this death game, hesitation is a death sentence. The only way to survive is to become the hunter. Just as Chiron celebrates his new loot, the first attack strikes his defenses. From the cover of darkness, Seo-woon prepares another shot. But Chiron's magical barrier deflects the crossbow bolt with ease. Under the relentless assault, the barrier begins to fracture. Gritting his teeth, Chiron desperately searches for his hidden attacker. He unleashes a wild blast of fire into the woods, hoping to hit anything. A throwing dagger whistles past, but it's only a feint. As the mage dodges, he leaves himself wide open. Seo-woon seizes the opportunity, shattering the barrier with his black star chi palms. With his target exposed, Seo-woon calmly takes aim. Chiron scrambles to cast one last desperate spell. But it's too late. The mage falls, his magic extinguished. And Seo-woon emerges from the shadows, the victor. His breath catches in his throat. He has just secured his first player kill. 2 loot chests materialize, the rewards for his victory. The spreading fire will attract others. He has to be quick. The mage's chest contains a dagger, gloves, and a valuable healing scroll. He also finds a golden necklace, dismissing the gaudy accessory as trash. But at the bottom of the chest lies a true treasure, a circle stones. With this, a martial artist like him could finally wield mana. He promises the dead mage he'll put his treasure to good use. With his prize secured, he slips into the night to find a safe place. Safely inside an abandoned building, he prepares for his transformation. The system warns him of temporary paralysis and slight pain. The moment the process begins, his body is racked with agony. For 3 grueling hours he endures it all as dawn breaks outside. Finally collapsing, he curses the system's definition of slight. But the pain was worth it. He is now a dual-class martial artist and mage. The kill feed is a constant stream of death, all caused by a single terrifying player, Nam Sagwang. But with the player count plummeting, a new thought emerges, a chance to claim the top-ranking rewards. But he forces the dream aside. Survival comes first, especially with a killer on the loose. To survive, he needs more power. He focuses his newfound energy, and for the first time, a vibrant blue aura confirms it. This is mana. He remembers an item he looted, a shimmering tome pulled from his subspace inventory. It's a magic book of Windball. Without a moment's hesitation, he accepts. The knowledge floods his mind, not learned, but downloaded. Now a dual-class fighter, he prepares to cast his first spell. He unleashes a torrent of mana. Several small, swirling orbs of wind materialize before him. But when he directs them at a target, they shred solid wood to splinters. The spell's destructive force is undeniable. But the power comes at a cost, draining his mana reserves in a single cast. With the restricted zone shrinking, his only choice is to stick to the boundary and scavenge. From the trees, a mysterious old man watches him go. The boy's cautious strategy piques his interest. The master takes to the canopy, silently closing the distance. Hours later, Seo-woon arrives at a village, but the hair on his neck stands up. He's not alone. The street is a graveyard of open chests and fresh bloodstains. Expecting an ambush, he gathers his remaining mana. He fires a preemptive strike, blasting his windball into the nearest house. The house is empty, but the feeling of being watched remains. Then, through a broken door, he spots it, a fresh trail of blood. For a moment, he considers the brutal math of this world: kill the injured player, take their items. But he chooses a different path, turning his back on the potential loot. He melts back into the woods, seemingly abandoning the kill. Hidden inside, an injured knight peers out, believing the danger has passed. He scoffs, convinced he could have handled the boy if not for his wounds. Letting his guard down, the knight turns his attention to an unopened chest. A flash of red is his only warning. His overconfidence cost him his life. From the shadows, Seo Woon emerges, having lured his prey into the open. With the trap sprung, he prepares to claim his prize. But a calm voice from behind stops him cold. He whips around, cursing his own carelessness. It's the old man, who tells him not to be alarmed, he only wants to talk. The man dismisses the need for names, since they all come from different worlds. Seo Woon forces a smile. This man is unlike any of the desperate killers he's met so far. The old man asks if he has experience in this sort of play. He clarifies, Seo Woon's movements show he understands this is a game, not just a random slaughter. Seo Woon admits it. While this is his first time here, he's played a similar game in his own world. As dusk falls on the third day, the two stand under a darkening sky. Intrigued, the old man asks him to explain more, but Seo Woon hesitates to speak in the open. He has no reason to trust this man won't kill him the moment they're alone. In a flash, the master grabs him by the cloak, silencing his protest. With impossible speed, he leaps from branch to branch, carrying Seo Woon with him. Seo Woon can only grit his teeth, completely at the mercy of the old man's power. He is whisked away into the night, an encounter that would change his fate forever. The master correctly deduces that his origin in an advanced civilization is why he adapted so quickly. Then comes a stunning revelation. The old man has been watching him since the very beginning. Seo Woon's unique, game-like behavior was the only thing that made him curious enough to intervene. When asked for the game's purpose, Seo Woon admits he has no answers. In his world, games are for fun, and no one truly dies. But despite the danger, he believes this death game is a monumental opportunity. He theorizes that when it's over, players will return home with the skills and items they've acquired here. Not just items, the martial arts, the magic itself, all of it can be taken back to their own worlds. The master is intrigued by the idea of magic, but questions why a powerful warrior like himself would need such an opportunity. Seo Woon explains that for a powerful master, it means little, but for a nobody like him, it's a chance to change his entire life. The old man erupts in laughter at his assumptions, forcing Seo Woon to quiet him. The master then offers to trade knowledge, asking about the strange gestures Seo Woon was making earlier. As dawn breaks, their all-night conversation concludes. Seo Woon knows that staying with this powerful man is his only path to survival. To repay him for the information, the old master asks if there is anything he desires. Seo Woon seizes the chance, begging the master to teach him martial arts so he can survive. The master grins. The request is not impossible. The master's words are the answer to his prayers. But his new master gives him a solemn warning. Learning from him requires a willingness to face the absolute worst. When Seo Woon asks what the worst could be, the master's answer is cold and simple. I mean death. The elder warns that a path to power outside the rules demands a steep price. But Seo Woon sees an opportunity, not a threat. He gambles on a simple truth. In this world, no one truly dies. For the first time, the old master is speechless, giving Seo Woon the opening he needs. The elder reaches out, seeking to measure the boy's inner energy. But what he finds defies all logic. The boy has no energy at all, a completely blank slate. And so, with a vessel this empty, the master prepares a forbidden technique. He warns Seo Woon of a pain that will shatter his senses. The instructions are simple: endure it. The penalty for failure is real death. As the process begins, the wind itself feels like blades upon his skin. His senses betray him, the whisper of ants in the grass roaring in his ears. Energy floods his system, overloading every nerve. His body screams, threatening to tear itself apart from the strain. This is a torment beyond any he could have imagined. And then, as suddenly as it began, the agony stops. Seo Woon is left gasping, his body still reeling from the phantom pain. The elder notes that merely surviving the ordeal proves his raw talent. He has forcibly opened an inspiratory gates within Seo Woon's soul. While others absorb chi from the world around them, Seo Woon will now draw power from a much darker source. Every living thing is bound by life chi. But what happens to that chi when a life is extinguished? It does not vanish, it disperses, waiting to be reclaimed. A scattered essence, returning to the world. Some have learned to steal this essence through murder, a path that leads to madness and ruin. But the art he has passed on is different. Seo Woon's utter lack of power made him the perfect vessel, able to absorb this death energies without corruption. A forbidden technique, made possible only by the unique rules of this game. In this world, the ground is already saturated with the lingering life chi of the fallen. The greatest drawback, the need to kill, is already a requirement for survival here. Survive for 100 days, and he will command a power beyond imagining. As the master turns to leave, Seo Woon calls out. He must know the name of the man who has given him this terrifying gift. The master is Zhang Uqian, and the technique is the white martial Divisik arts. Suwon bows, vowing to never forget this debt. Zhang Uqian gives one last piece of advice on accumulating his new power. They will meet again, should fate allow. With a single leap, the master vanishes into the trees. Suwon can only stare, awestruck by the gap in their abilities. For now, he is still just a man on foot. After a half-day's journey, he reaches the outskirts and spots a potential target. A lit window in the dead of night, either a trap or a rookie's mistake. He closes in, ready to find out which. He slips into the house, crossbow at the ready. The rooms are quiet, too quiet. After a fruitless search, he collapses, the ordeal of the day finally catching up to him. Exhaustion wins. He needs to rest. Morning comes, marking the 5th day of the survival game. He sleeps through the sunrise, vulnerable and exposed. But some instinct screams that he is no longer alone. His eyes fly open. A silhouette in the window confirms his worst fear. He scrambles for his weapon, his brief moment of rest shattered. The sound of the front door latching seals his fate. A weary martial artist named Shui Orong steps inside, thinking he's returned to an empty safe house. But his warrior's intuition tells him something is wrong. From the shadows, Suwon takes aim. The bolt flies true, but his target reacts with lightning speed, deflecting the shot with his blade. The ambush failed. Suwon immediately switches tactics, gathering a new energy in his palm. He unleashes the Black Star Chi Palm, a volley of hidden blades. The daggers find their mark, tearing through the man's defenses. Even wounded, the warrior charges forward, refusing to fall. But his attack is clumsy, and Suwon sidesteps with ease, bringing a foot down upon his opponent. He pins the man's sword hand, ending the fight in an instant. His prey neutralized, Suwon raises the crossbow bolt, ready to finish what he started. The man begs for his life, offering anything to survive. His pleas are met with cold steel. As the blood settles, one thought remains. In this game, no one can afford to die. Blood-soaked and victorious, Jin Suwon stands over his first kill. But from the fallen player's chest, a strange green energy emerges. He recognizes it from his master's warning. This is life chi. The energy floods into him, rewriting his body from the inside out. A power he's never known before courses through his veins. Inner energy. From a single kill, his entire physical being feels transformed. He opens his status window, needing to see the proof. A new stat appears, 20 points of inner energy stolen from his victim. With this new power secured, he checks on the state of the game. After only 5 days, the player count has already fallen to just 24. And right before his eyes, another soul is extinguished. Elsewhere, a man dies with a single name on his lips, Nam Sagwang. As the victim's life chi dissipates, his killer stands over the body. Nam Sagwang scoffs, annoyed he had to bloody his hands on someone so weak. He checks the player count, impatient for the slaughter to end. He can't believe there are still 22 others left to hunt. But one name on the kill feed catches his eye, Jin Suwon. Suwon knows instantly he must avoid this man at all costs. With a monster on the loose, his only hope is to get stronger, and fast. Days pass, and as the monsters grow stronger, Suwon's luck runs thin. By day 12, he's surviving on scraps, hiding at the edge of the shrinking zone. With only 20 players left, the world is closing in. For a week, the kill feed has shown only one name over and over again. But then, something in the distance breaks the silence. He spots the telltale signs of a massive battle. It seems a group of players has finally decided to make a stand against Nam Sagwang. A coalition of warriors and mages, including the mage Elizabeth, surrounds their target. He merely thanks them for saving him the trouble of hunting them down individually. Since they came to kill, they should be prepared to die. In a flash of movement, the hunt begins. He closes the distance before they can even react. Their panic cries are useless. His first victim falls. 1. He moves like a phantom, tearing through their ranks. The remaining fighters can only watch in horror. Another body hits the ground. 2. The battlefield descends into a one-sided slaughter. His strikes are a blur of blood and brutal efficiency. From his hiding spot, Suwon watches the massacre unfold. The kill feed confirms what he's seeing. Nam Sagwang is unstoppable. 9 players, including Elizabeth, are wiped out in an instant. This isn't a human, it's a monster. Nam Sagwang catches his breath, dismissing them as worthless. Disgusted by the blood, he turns his back on the treasure pile. He leaves Elizabeth's powerful staff lying in the dirt. His only concern is finding a place to wash the filth away. After he's gone, another player arrives at the scene of the carnage. Clutching Elizabeth's staff, the elf escrow swears an oath of vengeance. Now, only 11 players remain. Watching the raid boss in action, Seo-woon knows hiding isn't enough. He needs power. He spots a massive mansion, soon to be swallowed by the zone. This is his last chance to find something that could change the game. He moves in, checking for any signs of danger. He finds a powerful suit of armor, but lacks the strength to wear it. Still too weak, he's forced to leave it behind. But in the library, a glowing item catches his eye. It's an elixir, a potion to increase his internal energy. And beside it, a secret martial arts manual, the Unstoppable Fist. In one room, he's found the keys to his survival. The elixir requires 3 vulnerable hours to absorb. He needs a safe place. His search leads him to an unusual mark on the floor. He's found a hidden cellar, the perfect place to hide. Suddenly, a massive explosion rips through the mansion. He's caught completely off guard. The blast throws him from the building. He tumbles through the air, away from the inferno. A chain of explosions reduces the entire estate to rubble. He lands hard in the bushes outside. He was certain that nobody had followed him. Looking up, he sees the elf from the waiting room and the massacre. Escrow stands amid the flames he created, ready to finish the job. The elf declares that for Nam Sagwang to survive, he must be as strong as the rumors say. But as Escrow vows vengeance, the real Nam Sagwang appears behind him. Annoyed, the killer tells him to shut his mouth. He's tired of talk. He's here for a fight. With a manic grin, Escrow accepts, ready to claim his revenge. Nam Sagwang simply smirks, right back at you. Hiding in the dark, Seo-woon can only stare. The game's most ruthless killer is just a child. The elf mage, Escrow, corners his opponent Nam Sagwang. Hidden nearby, Jin Sayuan can only watch the clash between 2 titans. Escrow calls upon the heavens, summoning his signature lightning magic. He roars, commanding the storm to strike his foe down. With impossible speed, Nam Sagwang evades the blast. Escrow rages, demanding his opponent face him head-on. But Nam Sagwang knows the elf's power is no bluff. One wrong move means death. The mage grits his teeth, infuriated by his target's evasiveness. Believing he has him cornered, Escrow vows to end this with one final attack. He unleashes a massive lightning storm that consumes the sky. The storm descends on Nam Sagwang, leaving no room for escape. Yet, he moves like a phantom, slipping through the gaps in the electrical onslaught. He emerges from the chaos unscathed, and with a graceful leap, he turns the tables on the mage. Escrow looks up just in time to see his opponent descending upon him. Seizing the opening, Nam Sagwang fires a powerful blast of his own. But Escrow's barrier holds firm, deflecting the attack with ease. As the elf mocks his foe's futile effort, the image of Nam Sagwang begins to flicker. The illusion shatters. The truth lands like a blow. He'd been fighting a clone all along. High above the smoldering battlefield, the duped mage searches for his real target. Far away, the real Nam Sagwang makes his escape as the sky opens up. Seo-woon stares in awe. The mage's power is so immense it can change the very weather. Escrow's scream of fury echoes through the storm as he swears to hunt his prey down. Battered and bleeding, Nam Sagwang flees through the downpour. He concedes this battle to the elf, but vows their next meeting will be his last. For now, his only choice is to retreat and recover. Thanks to his cloak of hiding, Seo-woon watched the entire fight without being noticed. With the giants gone, he gambles that the abandoned battlefield is now the safest place to be. His hunch pays off when he discovers something hidden beneath the rubble. A cellar door, promising shelter, or maybe even treasure. He lifts the hatch and peers into the darkness below. With his lantern, he descends the stone steps. He hangs the light on a hook, illuminating the chamber. But his hopes sink when he sees it's just an old food cellar. Still, after days of tasteless jerky, the sight of real food is a welcome one. An hour later, he rests, full in content for the first time in ages. With his strength restored, it's time to use the mysterious elixir. He also inspects the martial arts manual he found, Unrestrained Fist. The manual's creator lost all 1429 of his fights and died without a single student. Setting aside the useless manual, he turns his attention back to the elixir. He hesitates, remembering the pain of his last power-up, but downs it in one go. The effect is immediate and overwhelming. An unbelievable torrent of inner energy floods his dantian. For 3 agonizing hours, his body is locked in place, racked by the violent absorption. Finally, the process ends, leaving him utterly drained. He slumps over, exhausted by the ordeal. A system notification appears, announcing the start of day 13. His power-up complete, Seo-woon pushes open the cellar door and steps back into the world. He checks the player count, only 10 survivors remain. His eyes lock onto the latest kill feed notification. His master, Jung Do-seon, is dead by suicide. Regardless of how it happened, he is now broken into the top 10. But the map is shrinking, and he has to get moving before he's caught in the restricted zone. Crossbow in hand, he races through the forest. Suddenly, his danger sense screams a warning. A massive fireball erupts directly in his path. The blast throws him to the ground as he scrambles to identify his attacker. A single, chilling possibility enters his mind. Through the smoke, a lone figure emerges from the flames. It's the formidable elf mage, Escrow. The elf explains his detection spell led him here, mistaking Sewun's energy for his real target. Sewun curses his carelessness. His new speed led him straight to an apex predator. Escrow demands to know if he's seen Nam Sagwang. He gives a final, chilling warning of what will happen if Sewun doesn't cooperate. But from the shadows behind him, the real target watches and waits. The elf mage, Escrow, corners Jin Sewun. Where is Nam Sagwang? But Sewun has no idea who he's talking about. The mage's patience runs out. If Sewun can't help, he is simply in the way. Suddenly, a figure blitzes down from the sky, an ambush. Escrow turns just in time to face the attack. His ambusher Nam Sagwang grins, revealing he is fully recovered and ready for round 2. The killer declares this next move will end the fight. He lunges forward, channeling immense power into a single punch. Escrow scoffs, believing such a simple attack could never touch him, but his confidence vaporizes as he feels the terrifying force behind the blow. Nam Sagwang mocks his ignorance, introducing him to a power called Enhanced Energies. It's a rare martial art known as arm energies, a technique he never expected to need in this world. As his hand finds its mark, he tells the mage to consider it an honor. The technique tears through the elf's defenses. With his throat crushed, the mage can no longer chant spells. Nam Sagwang taunts him. Reaching the top 5 is one thing, but meeting the game's #1 killer is his last mistake. From his hiding spot, Sewun watches the brutal takedown. The killer's hand, glowing with energy, impales the archmage. The blow pierces straight through his chest. Watching the slaughter, Sewun feels neither fear nor pity. Instead, a single greedy thought consumes him. If I absorb their life chi, how powerful would I become? Suddenly, the dying elf's voice echoes directly in his killer's mind. Through telepathy, he reveals his quest for vengeance, for his beloved apprentice, Elizabeth. Nam Sagwang callously dismisses the mage's grief. Enraged, Escrow vows to silence the killer's filthy mouth for good. Sewun senses a monumental shift in power. Something is wrong. The sky itself burns an ominous orange. He looks up, and his blood runs cold. A meteor is hurtling toward them. The spell descends, engulfing Escrow in its light as he prepares to make the ultimate sacrifice. Nam Sagwang can only stare, unable to comprehend a spell of this scale cast without a single word. The price for this spell is absolute, the Archmage's own mana and life chi. As his body disintegrates, Escrow unleashes his final act, Armageddon. His enemy can only scream as the suicidal attack fills the sky. Thrown from his hiding spot, Sewun realizes he stayed too long and runs for his life. In his last moments, Escrow sees a vision of his apprentice, Elizabeth. As his item box drops, his final wish is to see her one last time. The meteor impacts, and the world turns to white fire. Watching from a safe distance, a dark elf observer shields his eyes from the cataclysm. He knows only one person could be responsible for a spell this powerful. Caught in the blast, Sewun curses his own greed for keeping him in the kill zone. He refuses to die here, desperately reaching into his inventory. Just before the fire consumes him, he rips open a healing scroll. Even with the scroll's magic, one is not enough, and he frantically uses several more to fight off death. His body stabilized, he pulls up the system interface to check the player count. The kill log confirms Nam Sagwang killed the Archmage, a missed opportunity for Sewun. But there's no log for Nam Sagwang's own death. Did the top player somehow survive? A weak cry for help cuts through the silence of the scorched forest. Following the sound, his eyes widen at what he finds. The game's #1 killer, grievously injured and utterly helpless. With both arms mangled, the once feared killer is completely defenseless. He approaches the fallen tyrant. "You're Nam Sagwang, aren't you?" Sewun admits he never imagined finding the game's strongest player in such a pathetic state. The desperate killer sees a flicker of hope, promising to make Sewun the winner if he'll only help. He pleads, insisting that Sewun can't possibly win this game alone. But Sewun isn't listening. He's calculating the value of the man's life chi. A dark grin spreads across his face as he finds his answer. Killing him now is the fastest path to power. He calmly interrupts the man's pleas. "At least know the name of your killer." With his last breath, Nam Sagwang stares into his eyes. "I will never forget the name Jin Sewun." Without hesitation, Sewun plunges his sword home, ending the reign of the game's top killer. He kneels over the body, a fleeting pang of guilt for killing someone who looked so young. But that moment is shattered by a powerful sensation. A colossal torrent of life chi erupts from the corpse and floods into him. The raw power is intoxicating. Nam Sagwang wasn't just a player, he was a human elixir. A system alert flashes across the game world, shocking the remaining 8 players. Jin Sewon, Nam Sagwang. Perched far away, the Dark Elf observer notes that the game's tiger is finally dead. And now that the strongest predator is gone, the cunning foxes will finally come out to play. After absorbing Nam Sagwang's inner energy, Jin Sewon feels an incredible surge of power. With his enemy defeated, his attention turns to the spoils of war, the treasure chest of the game's former strongest player. He cracks open the glowing chest, ready to claim his reward, but the contents leave him utterly speechless. It's a king's ransom of rare-grade rings, each one boosting a different stat to impossible heights. But as he equips his new gear, the sound of movement snaps him back to the present. Before confronting the newcomer, he pulls up his status window to assess his new strength. His stats have skyrocketed, with his magic resistance now at an unbelievable 90. A grin spreads across his face. With this power, he can finally win. He finishes securing his loot, but a cold instinct tells him he's no longer alone. The forest, once a battlefield, is now a silent hunting ground. His eyes narrow as he identifies the incoming magic escrow-style fire. A moment later, an inferno erupts from the trees, striking him from behind. A new player, a mage named Zihark, emerges from the shadows, mocking his carelessness. The mage smirks, convinced he's ambushed a weakling who just got lucky. But his confidence shatters as Jin Sewon walks out of the flames completely unharmed. His new rings flare to life, neutralizing the spell before it can even singe his cloak. The terrified mage threatens him, warning him to stay back. In a panic, Zihark unleashes another, more powerful volley of flames. Sewon simply smirks, unimpressed by the desperate attack. A massive explosion engulfs him, but the flames part around him like water. Ignoring the inferno, Sewon prepares his own counterattack. He channels his massive inner energy into the unrestrained fist. With a single piercing fist, he strikes with overwhelming force. The mage crashes into a tree, his body broken by the devastating blow. Even Sewon is taken aback by the sheer destructive power of his new technique. The system confirms Zihark's death. Only 7 survivors remain. As he absorbs the kill, he confirms that average magic is no longer a threat. With Nam Sagwang gone, the other players will no longer be hiding in the shadows. He pulls up his hood, ready for a night of battle. Now, he will become the hunter. An hour passes beneath the full moon. The endgame has begun. From a perch in the trees, he finds his first target, a warrior named Stanko, shouting challenges into the night. After the mage, a simple warrior should be easy prey. Stanko continues his taunts, daring anyone to face him. Suddenly, his boasting is cut short as he senses a new presence behind him. The warrior's bravado vanishes, replaced by the cold dread of an ambush. An arrow laced with blue energy streaks from the darkness, but he just barely deflects it. Watching from his hiding spot, Sewon sees another player has joined the fray. Stanko, however, recognizes the signature of that attack. He looks up into the trees and finds his assailant, the legendary dark elf archer, Zurochana. The archer coolly confirms his identity, unimpressed by the warrior. Stanko explains that the elf's reputation as a divine archer precedes him. Sensing an opportunity, the warrior proposes an alliance to hunt down Jin Sewon. He introduces himself as Stanko, a famous mercenary, confident in their new partnership. After a pause, Zurochana gives a terse one-word agreement. But the archer's eyes betray his true thoughts. The warrior is a simple-minded fool. He silently begins a countdown, anticipating the inevitable betrayal. Just as predicted, Stanko lunges forward, sword raised to strike. The false alliance shatters as the warrior screams for him to die and drop his items. He brings his massive greatsword down, aiming to cleave the archer in two. But Zurochana was waiting for this exact moment, and a fatal blow ends the warrior's charge. While the archer is distracted, Sewon moves to absorb the fallen warrior's life chi. With only 6 players left, every drop of energy is crucial. He reaches out, his skill pulling the shimmering essence from the corpse. But Zurochana's head whips around, his senses piercing the air. The elf's keen eyes lock directly onto Sewon's invisible hiding spot. Sewon's blood runs cold. His cloak of hiding has completely failed. This archer doesn't rely on magic. He possesses a sensory skill that pierces all concealment. Zurochana scoffs at the dead warrior, dismissing his items as worthless. Deciding the kill isn't worth looting, the archer turns to leave. Sewon seizes the chance to slip away while his back is turned. Once safe, he knows he was lucky to escape. The archer's senses were on another level. He commits the name to memory, Zurochana. He now knows the name of the true apex predator in this forest. With only days remaining, the game's restricted zone closes in, forcing a bloody finale. Jin Se-woon flees through the forest, the digital wall shrinking faster than ever before. With only 6 survivors left, the system is accelerating the hunt. He moves through an exposed field under his cloak of hiding, knowing any sound will draw unwanted attention. Suddenly, a volley of magical energy tears through the grass, aimed directly at him. He whirls around, searching for the source of the ambush. The blasts rip through the field, relentlessly homing in on their invisible target. He barely evades the concentrated assault. Still cloaked, he questions how the attacker pinpointed his exact location. As another wave descends, he knows dodging is no longer an option. He drops his invisibility, bracing to meet the attack head-on. He will trust the power he stole from the heavens. He roars the name of a forbidden technique. Unstoppable Fist, Piercing Fist. Se-woon unleashes a punch charged with raw inner energy. The shockwave obliterates the incoming magic. He stares at his own fist, the power coursing through it a revelation. He then leaps from the dissipating smoke, soaring high into the air to finally locate his ambusher. Hidden behind a tree, the mage Mago gawks at the figure who just appeared from nowhere. He can't comprehend how a supposed non-combatant just blocked his full mana attack. In a flash, a blade slices through Mago from behind. The mage looks down at the dagger protruding from his chest, his ambush cut short. A new figure, an assassin, chides the dying mage for not saving enough mana for a barrier. Erasing one's traces is my specialty, the killer whispers. As Mago's body vanishes, the survivor count drops to 5. The assassin, Tamarin, knows Se-woon by name. Everyone knows the man who killed public enemy number 1. The truth lands like a blow. By killing the top target, he just painted a new one on his own back. Tamarin draws his blades, boasting that he has never once failed in assassination. With a burst of speed, he lunges forward to claim his prize. Se-woon counters with a powerful punch of his own, but the assassin is impossibly fast, mocking his sluggish attack. He slips past the blow and carves a deep gash across Se-woon's chest. Se-woon staggers back, blood pouring from the wound. His inner energy shield barely saved him from being sliced in two. Tamarin smirks. A wound like that means the fight is already over. This killer is a different breed from the mages he has fought. But the assassin's own words spark an idea. In the dark, Tamarin activates a stealth skill and vanishes from sight. He reappears directly behind Se-woon, blades poised for the killing blow. But his attack strikes nothing but empty air. A disembodied voice compliments his remarkable skills. The assassin spins around, demanding his target show himself. Se-woon grabs him from behind, his own cloak rendering him completely invisible. He explains that stealth is useless against someone who can track the flow of energy itself. Turning the assassin's earlier taunt back on him, he asks, "Weren't you going to end me?" Tamarin's confidence shatters into pure terror. In a desperate plea, he begs for an alliance. Se-woon's answer is swift and brutal. The survivor count drops to 4. Among the loot, he finds a skill book that's completely out of place for an assassin. It's a shadow clone manual, a technique that requires internal energy to use. He also finds Carmen's Eyes, a high-tier detection grimoire. Now he knows how Mago found him. His perfect stealth has a counter after all. His reflection is cut short as an arrow whistles past his head. It lands at his feet, the signature of a master archer. Wounded and drained, he knows only one person of that caliber, the dark elf, Zoro Kana. But before he can pinpoint her, a barrage of massive ice shards rains down from the sky. This magic is unfamiliar. It's a second unknown attacker. With no time to run, he must concentrate all his remaining energy into a single counter. He unleashes the full might of his ultimate piercing fist. His punch connects with the ice magic, erupting in a massive explosion. The force of his attack shatters the ice barrage completely. Staggering from the effort, he grasps the horrifying truth: he's being hunted by a team. A voice from the shadows commends his strength. As a third opponent, a warrior, lunges from the darkness with a blindingly fast sword strike. Se-woon barely parries the heavy blow. Exhausted and cornered, his luck has finally run out. From the cliffs above, the divine archer Zoro Chana takes aim. The warrior Senturk and the skeletal mage Gairon close in from the front. He faces Creason's king, the Demon King's right arm, and a living legend of the bow. Cornered by titans, the system offers one final grim label for Jin Se-woon, normal bloke. Only 4 survivors remain, and for 3 of them, Jin Se-woon is the primary target. The skeletal mage Gairon makes his move, proposing a temporary alliance with King Senturk. Though Senturk scoffs at the mere black magician, Gairon dangles the promise of an easy kill. The king agrees. They will deal with Se-woon's annoying stealth first. Gairon summons a blinding light, determined to strip away every shadow. The flare detonates, and Seowon's position is completely exposed. With nowhere left to hide, he is forced out into the open. A critical weakness is revealed. The cloak of hiding fails against magical light. Gyron sentences him to die in the name of the Demon King. A devastating Chaos Blade screams toward its target. Seowon's game knowledge dictates the counter, charge the mage head-on. Gyron meets the reckless charge with a vortex of raw magical power. Seowon floods his body with internal energy, enduring the searing pain to break through. The cost of his gamble is steep. His cloak of hiding is damaged beyond repair. The mage is certain his spell will tear the boy to shreds. But Seowon shatters the assault with the unstoppable fist. His piercing fist follows, landing a devastating blow. Gyron only smirks and casts his next spell, the Dead Man's Hand. Gnarled hands of dark magic erupt from the ground to crush him. He activates his last resort, the Shadow Clone technique. The magical hands close on empty air as the real Seowon escapes the trap. The use of such petty tricks ignites Gyron's fury, but the real Seowon is already before him, moving in for the kill. Suddenly, a new voice whispers the name of a deadly technique. King Senturk appears from nowhere, his blade piercing both Gyron and Seowon in a single treacherous strike. The dying mage stares, betrayed by the ally he thought he had. Senturk coldly states that there is no honor greater than absolute victory. The kill feed confirms Gyron's death, and the king thanks him for his service. He turns to the final survivor, the renowned divine archer, Zuro-Chana. But Zuro-Kana simply grins, warning the king it's too early to celebrate. The king whirls around to find a bloody Jin Seowon standing beside him. His punch lands with crushing force, proving the impaled figure was nothing but a clone. The blow sends the arrogant king hurtling into the earth. Battered and drained, Seowon fights just to stay on his feet. Zuro-Kana calmly notes that the king was fooled by a simple clone. Exhausted, Seowon tells the archer to save the talk and come at him. Zuro-Chana declines to fight, reminding Seowon his business with the king isn't finished. And indeed, a furious King Senturk rises from the rubble. The punch was powerful enough to shatter his master-crafted armor. Seowon throws down a challenge. Will they fight him one-on-one or attack him together? Senturk's calm voice carries a deadly promise. You will regret making me serious. The king vanishes in a blur of motion. Seowon cannot track. His royal rapier materializes, piercing straight through Seowon's shoulder. Senturk boasts that no one can possibly match his speed. The strike was precise, aimed to sever the ligaments and cripple his arm completely. Pushing past the agony, Seowon floods his arm with energy, shattering the blade still lodged inside him. The king's eyes widen. A commoner dared to break the royal rapier. Seowon rips the broken shard from his own flesh. He counters with the black starchy palms, striking the king directly in the face. For a commoner to mar his face is an insult that ignites the king's fury. Wiping blood from his lips, Senturk acknowledges his opponent's will to fight. He gathers his power, unleashing his ultimate technique, the Aura Blade. He names Seowon a worthy foe and prepares to grant him a warrior's death. Despite his wounds, Seowon forces what little energy he has left into mending his shattered arm. He pours all of his remaining life force into one final, desperate gamble. An entire army of shadow clones swarms the battlefield. As king and commoner lock eyes, Senturk vows that only royalty can be the ultimate victor. But a third player watches from above, waiting for them both to fall. And the divine archer is growing impatient. Surrounded by his shadow clones, Jin Seowon announces the time for games is over. But King Senturk scoffs, his glowing aura blade ready for the end. The king knows his blade will last 2 minutes at most. He must finish this now. Seowon feels his own energy bottoming out. This next attack has to be his last. With a final war cry, he charges. Senturk's blade becomes a whirlwind of light, carving through clone after clone. But one slips past his guard, slamming a black star chi palm into his back. The king curses him as the swarm of clones forces him onto the defensive. He abandons the hunt for the real one. He will simply cut them all down. Just then, a fist connects with the force of a battering ram. The solid impact rattles him. Could that have been the real one? Seowon taunts the king, asking how it feels to be hit by a slippery bastards. Then he reveals the truth of his shadow clones. Every single one is the original. 2 clones coordinate a devastating piercing fist, striking the king's chest. Enraged, Senturk unleashes his own power, piercing aura. The wave of energy shreds through the shadow clones in an instant. They may hit hard, but their durability is a joke. Only 5 clones remain, but his own power is fading. He has less than a minute left. From a clifftop, the archer Zuro-Kana watches the battle with cold amusement. He never expected the king to be pushed this far. Desperate, Senturk screams for aid, promising the archer anything for victory. Zurokana's response is ice cold. Keep your eyes on your opponent. The distraction costs him dearly as a clone closes the distance. An undefeated palm strike slams toward the king's chest, but Senturk intercepts the blow with his aura-infused blade. A triumphant grin spreads across the king's face. Got you, Jin Sewun. He drives his blade through the clone's chest, certain of his victory, but as the clone dissolves into shadow, a horrifying truth dawns on him. His mind snaps. He no longer cares about winning, only destruction. From his perch, Zorochana knows what this means. The King of Madness has awakened. Enveloped in a storm of golden aura, Senturk challenges the last clones to survive this. He unleashes a massive, explosive blast from his sword. The attack scours the battlefield, leaving nothing but devastation. Only 2 clones are left standing, but they aren't done yet, charging forward together. Senturk finds himself trapped between the final 2 opponents. One of them lands a solid blow. In the same motion, the king pivots and impales the other. The lack of resistance tells him everything. It's another fake. With the final decoy gone, he is certain only the real Seo-Woon remains. Across the marsh, the last Jin Seo-Woon faces him alone. Convinced this is the end, Senturk prepares for a single, final strike. Exhausted and battered, Seo-Woon braces for the inevitable. Both warriors charge, putting everything they have into one last clash. Their attacks collide in a blinding explosion of force. Even now, Senturk compliments his opponent's skill. Then he unleashes his true final technique, Aura Blade, Lightning Form. A brilliant yellow light erupts from his sword. The lightning-infused blade smashes through Seo-Woon's defenses. An agonizing scream tears from Seo-Woon's throat as electricity surges through him. A cruel smirk twists Senturk's lips as he overpowers his foe. Seo-Woon's body is hurled backward, thrown aside like a broken doll. In a last-ditch plea, he warns the king that only Zurokana will profit from this. Senturk ignores him, plunging his lightning-charged blade into Seo-Woon's chest. The king's hand glows with the immense power of the final blow. He stands over the body, breathing heavily, victorious with seconds to spare. But, as he clutches his sword, something feels wrong. A cold dread washes over him as he turns. The final blow, it felt just as empty as all the others. The king's eyes widen in absolute terror. From behind, the real Jin Seo-Woon crushes the king's skull. With Senturk dead, he admits the clones were the only reason he stood a chance. A smug voice cuts through the silence. Zorochana emerges from the shadows. The archer thanks him for eliminating the troublesome king. He notes that Senturk's obsession was his downfall, and that Seo-Woon has nothing left. For his valiant effort, Zurokana promises him an honorable death. He draws his bow, and a spiraling arrow of pure energy screams towards Seo-Woon. Utterly spent, Seo-Woon can only watch as death flies towards him. After defeating the king, Jin Seo-Woon absorbs the last of his life chi, and an insane surge of power floods his veins. He clenches his fist with this. He might finally stand a chance against the final survivor, Zorochana. Now fully energized, he turns to face the last opponent waiting for him. He unleashes his shadow clone technique, intending to overwhelm the dark elf with sheer numbers. An army of clones charges the cliffside where the archer waits. But Zorochana scoffs at the annoying clone technique and coolly draws his bow. In an instant, he lets fly a single, devastating arrow. It finds its mark, piercing straight through the real Seo-Woon's leg. He cries out as the attack shatters his desperate charge. His leg gives out and he collapses to the ground. Zorochana stands over him, vowing that this time there will be no escape. The archer fires again, pinning Seo-Woon's hands to the unforgiving earth. Impaled and helpless, Seo-Woon demands to know how he saw through the clones so easily. The elf just smiles. I just made a guess. Seo-Woon lies crucified on the battlefield, utterly defeated. Zurokana offers a final, hollow respect before drawing his last arrow. The kill feed flashes across the sky, declaring Zorochana the winner of the death game. He looks down at the corpse and wonders aloud if it's finally over. As if in answer, Seo-Woon's body pixelates into nothing, leaving behind a victor's chest. On the game's official broadcast, the feed glitches to static just as the winner is announced. But Seo-Woon isn't dead. He's watching that very screen, his victory stolen at the last second. The system congratulates him, not for winning, but for securing second place. And then, a notification that changes everything. He has earned the right to participate in the next game. He's awarded 140 coins and presented with every item he looted. The system explains he can now spend those coins to make the items permanently his. But the price for his most valuable skill, the Shadow Clone Manual, would take almost everything he has. Just as despair sets in, the system offers a lifeline, a random reward roulette for top survivors. As the second place winner, he gets 2 spins, 2 chances to win his best items for free. The wheel begins to spin, a blur of priceless skills and powerful gear. He watches, his entire future hanging on the result. His first spin lands on Escrow's necklace, the cheapest piece of junk he found. Rage boils over, all that work, all that struggle for garbage. He forces himself calm, remembering he has one more chance. For his final spin, he prays to any god that will listen. As the wheel slows, he screams, trying to will it toward the grand prize. The needle flies past item after item, tension mounting with every click. And against all odds, it stops, directly on the Shadow Clone manual. A triumphant roar rips from his throat. He hit the jackpot. The most expensive item in the pool, now his, for free. The precious manual materializes, its power now permanently his. With a massive surplus of coins, he claims the rest of his gear. His purchase is complete. The system delivers one final message: good luck in the next game. A brilliant flash of light engulfs him. He finds himself in a familiar back alley, returned to his own world. Disoriented, something makes him glance down at his hand. The subspace ring he'd worn in the game is still on his finger. The cold metal confirms the terrifying truth: the game was real. He walks through the city streets, a world that hasn't changed, but he has. A predator's smile touches his lips. His old life, his exams, his future. None of it matters anymore. There is only one thing left to do: prepare for the second game. He clenches his fist, a promise burning within him: next time, he will be first. Back in his apartment, he knows his only path forward is to get stronger. He sits to meditate and finds his inner energy core completely depleted. With no one to kill for life chi, he must rely on the cultivation his master taught him. He recalls his master's lesson: cultivation was the slower but more stable path to power. He remembers naively asking if simple training was enough to reach his master's level. The old man had laughed, warning a small bird not to tear its legs trying to imitate a stork. But, a moment later, his master's expression had turned contemplative. As he meditates, that final lingering question returns, defining his new reality: was he just a humble parrot bill, or was he a baby stork yet to take flight? After 4 hours of intense cultivation, Jin Sowoon opens his eyes. But the energy he has gathered is barely a flicker. The truth lands like a blow. At this rate, it will take him years to regain his power. He grits his teeth, cursing how much harder it is to cultivate in reality than in the game. Unwilling to waste more time on slow progress, he accesses his subspace inventory. He pulls out the Shadow Clone manual, a basic martial art he acquired in the game. But as he holds the book, a system window materializes before him, offering to teach him instantly. The game's interface: it works here, in the real world. Without hesitation, he accepts, and the knowledge of the martial art floods his mind. He moves flawlessly, his body executing every strike and kick with ingrained perfection. He has the skill, but without a deep well of inner energy, the art is just an empty shell. But his skills aren't his only asset. He still has the items he brought back. He pulls out Escrow's necklace and bites down, testing its authenticity. It's pure gold, an item worth a fortune in this world. A greedy thought sparks in his mind: items that were worthless in the game could make him rich. He then examines a bottle of refined troll's blood, which promises a year of perfect health. To a desperate, wealthy patient, an item like this would be priceless. This isn't just about survival anymore, it's a path to power and wealth. But first, he decides to satisfy a craving he's endured for months. This simple set meal was the one luxury he dreamed of while surviving on leathery jerky. The plain taste of rice is so overwhelming it brings him to tears. The diner's owner gruffly tells him a man shouldn't be crying over his food. He claims it's just that delicious, but she isn't buying it. He quietly notes a critical rule: months spent in the game only amount to a single day in reality. Back on the street, he remembers another item he needs to test. He slips on the Ring of Strength, wondering if its power boost will work here too. An overwhelming force answers his question, launching him straight into the sky. He is astounded by the raw power coursing through his body. With practiced control, he fights the momentum and forces himself back towards the ground. He lands hard, cracking the pavement and praying no one saw his display. The ring's success gives him confidence. It's time to use his most valuable prize. He retrieves the Elixir of Insight, a legendary item that cost him a steep 50 coins. He remembers the agony of absorbing it in the game, 3 hours of his body feeling like it was on fire. Steeling himself for the torment to come, he drinks the entire potion in one go. His body erupts in an agonizing wave of power and heat. The empty flask clatters to the floor as the transformation consumes him. 3 hours later, a worried neighbor complains to the police about the intense heat coming from his apartment. The officer is skeptical, suggesting the boiler is just turned up too high. To placate the woman, he cautiously reaches for the doorknob. He recoils in pain. The metal is burning hot. The officers bang on the door, demanding to know if anyone inside is okay. When they get no response, their calls become more urgent. Suddenly, the doorknob slowly begins to turn from the inside. The door cracks open, releasing a wall of steam. A drenched and breathless Jin So-woon appears in the doorway. He quickly lies, blaming a high fever and a malfunctioning boiler. Though suspicious, the police accept his story and offer an ambulance, which he refuses. The moment they're gone, he slams the door shut. He collapses to the floor. Without his white martial physique, the elixir's energy would have killed him. Using these items in the real world carries unforeseen and deadly risks. But the power he gained was worth it. He channels his new, abundant energy into the unstoppable fist technique. And, with a single undefeated palm strike, he completely obliterates his desk chair. Surveying the damage, he mutters that he'll need to sell an item just to replace his furniture. The next day, Seo-woon heads to an outdoor gym to continue his training. He finds the park far too crowded for privacy and resolves to return after sunset. But his upside-down view is interrupted by a group of high school delinquents. One of them, Dong-jun, rudely dismisses a friend just as an old man confronts them about smoking in the park. The elder lectures them, but Dong-jun scoffs that not even his parents can tell him what to do. In that case, the old man replies calmly, they must have failed to raise you properly. The insult hits its mark, and Dong-jun furiously squares up to the elder. From his perch, Seo-woon knows this is about to turn ugly. The delinquent raises a fist, threatening to beat the old man for his disrespect. Before he can swing, Seo-woon drops from the bars and plants a powerful kick across his face. Dong-jun is sent flying, crashing to the ground in a heap. You can't just hit an old man, Seo-woon states coolly, landing on his feet. As the other students stare in shock, their leader arrives. The newcomer, Min-shik, fixes his cold gaze on Seo-woon. Have we met before, he asks, his voice deceptively calm. His eyes radiate pure killing intent as he asks a simple question. You looking to die? A cold sweat breaks out on Seo-woon's neck. He just picked a fight with something far more dangerous than a simple bully. A high school bully finds his younger brother left broken in the dirt. His eyes lock onto So-woon, the only other person there. Seo-woon explains that the kid got what he deserved for disrespecting an old man. He then has the audacity to lecture Min-shik on how to raise his brother. The lecture ends as a fist flies towards Seo-woon's face. But Seo-woon sidesteps the blow with impossible ease. He gathers his inner energy, preparing the unstoppable piercing fist. The counterattack lands with bone-shattering force. Min-shik coughs up blood, and Seo-woon feigns an apology for not controlling his strength. But the boy is tougher than he looks, still standing after a direct hit. The fight escalates as Min-shik draws a butterfly knife. He snarls, promising to end this now. Seo-woon notes that this family clearly has anger issues. The knife attack is wild and desperate. And against his new power, it's laughably slow. He decides to pull back, using only half his power this time. He unleashes the undefeated palm strike. The shockwave hits Min-shik like a freight train. It flings him backward through the air, and plants him headfirst into a tree, much to his friend's morbid fascination. Seo-woon stares at his hand. Even at half power, the damage is immense. His audience, however, mistakes the attack for an elaborate movie stunt. Seizing his chance, Seo-woon plays the part of a lecturing actor. He gives them one last lesson on respecting their elders before making a run for it. The students rush to their unconscious friend as Seo-woon vanishes into the woods. Once clear, the reality of what he's done sinks in. If he had killed that boy, his own life would have been over. This dangerous slip-up only reinforces his need for control. A month of intense training passes. Seo-woon tries to cultivate his energy, but progress on Earth is painfully slow. His meditation is shattered by an incoming call. It's his mother calling from outside a hospital. Then, she delivers the news that shatters his world. His father was in a car accident. Through her tears, she explains the surgery is expensive, and they don't have the money. As she names the price, Seo-woon summons an item from his subspace ring. This golden artifact, a relic from the death game, might be their only hope. He tells her not to worry, he has a plan. All his life he's watched his parents struggle. His father worked harder than anyone, yet his body and his income both failed him. Seo-woon had always been just another burden, a hopeless son with no future. But now, he has the power to change everything. He walks into a jewelry shop and presents the artifact to an appraiser. She's impressed by the unusual craftsmanship, so he claims it's a family heirloom. She notes it's worth more as an antique, but Seo-woon presses for a quick cash sale. He tells her his father's life is on the line. The transaction is done. His account balance jumps by 11.5 million won, more than enough. The appraiser's barely hidden glee tells him everything. He was cheated. But it doesn't matter, he has the money, and that's all that counts. He immediately calls his mother as he heads for the subway. She panics at the amount, demanding to know if he took out a dangerous loan. He lies, telling her it's just savings from part-time jobs and his military service. With his family safe for now, Seo-woon rides the crowded subway. His attention is caught by a conversation nearby. Two men are arguing over a strange video on their phone, debating if it's fake. Seo-woon glances over, and his blood runs cold. On the screen, someone is casting a spell he recognizes, Escrow's Flame. The truth lands like a physical blow. He is not the only survivor. The men note the video keeps getting taken down, dismissing it as a prank. But Seo-woon knows this is no prank. At that very moment in a dark office, a phone call is made. A man promises his superior that this kind of leak will never happen again. He slams the phone down, his promise hanging in the air. He turns to his subordinate, demanding a report on the leak. The answer is not what he wants to hear. The number of survivors is surging, and they've lost track. His fury finds a target. He roars at them to find the survivor who exposed himself. Then, with cold indifference, he tells the man to stop bleeding on his expensive carpet. Another agent steps forward, using their own powers to heal the wound as their leader fumes about a rival faction. Seo-woon may have escaped the death game, but back on Earth, the hunt for survivors had just begun. 2 months after the first game, Jin Se-woon's nights are consumed by brutal, solitary training. But a critical weakness plagues him, a limit he has yet to overcome. He reaches for a power from the game world, summoning a shadow clone. Together, they practice the Unstoppable Fist, a technique that once tore through giants. But on Earth, he can only sustain a single flickering copy. This power is a shadow of what it once was, its existence fleeting. Their fists clash, a desperate attempt to recapture the strength he lost. Within moments, his energy is spent, and the clone dissolves into nothing. He slumps to the ground, confronting the hard ceiling of his power in the real world. He remembers commanding an army of 8 shadows against King Senturk. But now, his dantian is hollow, his reserves pitifully drained. Finished with his training, he reaches into his subspace for a snack. But a brilliant light tears through the forest, pulling him out of his world. He finds himself in a sunlit clearing, surrounded by warriors and mages from other realms. Among them are terrified knights, their confusion a mirror of his own first game. The truth settles like a shroud. He has been dragged back into the death game. The system announces not just the start of the game, but a tutorial. A tutorial, something that was skipped the first time around. A grin spreads across his face. This arena is full of fresh meat. But then his eyes lock onto one player who is anything but a beginner. The young man in the school uniform surveys the crowd with an unsettling calm. He's another Korean, perched like a predator watching his prey. The student's gaze is sharp, his composure that of a seasoned veteran. An alarm bell rings in Seo-woon's mind. This kid could be another monster like Nam Sa-gwang. With 200 players assembled, the system announces the game will now begin. The tutorial is set in the Valley of Cantras, and all 200 participants are guaranteed to pass. No risk of elimination, a guarantee of survival for all. The rules are off, and it's time to let the psycho out to play. But just as he plots his rampage, the system announces a shocking new rule. This isn't a free-for-all, it's a duo game. Players must find a partner, and rewards are shared even if only one survives. They have 5 minutes to form a team, or they will be forced to compete alone. He knows choosing the wrong partner is a death sentence, a dead weight to drag him down. His eyes dart to the one other veteran in the crowd. The high schooler is his only logical choice. But when he turns to make his offer, the student is gone. The kid moved impossibly fast, already having secured a partner. A cold sweat breaks out. With the clock ticking down, he scrambles to find anyone left. He scans the crowd, but everywhere he looks, players have already paired off. The seconds bleed away, leaving him isolated in a sea of duos. Time is up. He's alone. Fine. If he has to play solo, then he'll just have to kill everyone. The Cloyd survival duo game begins, scattering the players across the valley. Below, villages dot the landscape, perfect hunting grounds. He plummets towards the battlefield, determined to land first and draw first blood. He touches down in an empty town square, the silence before the storm. Looking up, he counts his prey, 6 players descending, 3 teams. Without hesitation, he vanishes into the buildings, his hunt already underway. Elsewhere, a disoriented mage stumbles from the woods, separated from his partner. Just as the mage calls out for his teammate, Seo-woon drops from the trees. The Unstoppable Fist connects, a spatial strike that shatters the air itself. As the mage reels, Seo-woon coldly marks his tally, 1 down. A follow-up strike, Bone Shatter, impacts with sickening force. The mage crumples, a broken puppet whose strings have been cut. A new system message appears. Opponents can be knocked out and revived. But before he can deliver the final blow, his senses scream danger. He whips around as a new threat barrels towards him. The downed mage's partner, a knight named James, dives from the sky with a vengeful cry. Seo-woon twists, barely deflecting the spearhead with his forearm. The force of the impact sends him skidding back, tearing up the ground. Blood drips from his arm. The hunter has just met the other half of the pack. With the mage defeated, Seo-woon turns his attention to the next threat. The knight, James, demands vengeance for his fallen comrade. Seo-woon sizes up his opponent, a close combat specialist, armed and armored. This is the perfect chance to test his unstoppable fist, a style designed for bare-handed combat against weapons. He drops into a low stance, eager to put his training into practice. Seo-woon charges forward, meeting the knight's spear thrust head-on. In a blur of motion, he closes the distance. He slips past the spear's tip, moving inside the knight's guard. The knight's weapon is now useless at this range. James can only watch as the counterattack comes. His eyes widen. The speed is impossible. The trajectory of his attack shifted in an instant. With his enemy's defenses broken, Seo-woon prepares to strike. He channels his power into an open palm. The spatial strike slams into the knight's chest. Steel shatters and the knight is sent flying backward. But Seo-woon gives him no chance to recover, grabbing his helmet. He drives a knee straight into the knight's face. The armored warrior collapses to the ground. James lies defeated, his body broken. Seo-woon ends it with a final, brutal stomp. Standing over the bodies, he coldly confirms the kill. 2 down. He absorbs the knight's life chi, a rush of power far greater than anything on Earth. But he knows 4 enemies remain in the area. Suddenly, an arrow slices the air just past his face. The ambush nearly takes his head off. He tracks the arrow's path back to its source among the houses. Another shot forces him to dive for cover. He rolls away as a third arrow strikes the ground where he stood. Blood streams from a new wound as he scrambles for safety. A volley of arrows rains down from above. He takes cover behind a tree, the wood splintering from the impact. He decides to go on the offensive, using himself as bait to lure out the archer and any hidden allies. He takes to the rooftops, no longer the hunted, but the hunter. His eyes lock onto his prey. An arrow pierces his head with lethal accuracy, but the body dissolves into nothing. The archer watches from a window, his perfect shot hitting a mere clone. Before he can react, a shadow falls over him from above. There you are. Seo-woon crashes through the window, landing a devastating kick. The archer tumbles backward, the ambush completely turned on him. But where the archer should be, there is only a cloud of smoke. The target vanished into thin air. It's the Cloak of Hiding, an item that renders its user invisible. From behind, the hidden archer takes aim again. But Seo-woon dodges the shot with contemptuous ease. The archer lands in the street below, thinking he's escaped. But when he looks up, Seo-woon is already waiting for him on a balcony. You think you can leave so easily? He leaps from the building, closing the distance in a single bound. The archer runs for his life, but his pursuer is relentless. Seo-woon lands in front of him, cutting off his escape route. He points out the fatal flaw in his enemy's plan, using a cloak of shadow in broad daylight, a common item for campers. Die and give it to me. Just then, a calm voice cuts in. That's enough. An elven swordsman steps between them, his gaze fixed on Seo-woon. The elf scans the area, noting that Seo-woon's own ally is nowhere to be seen. The tables have turned again. Seo-woon is now facing 2 opponents at once. But a grin spreads across his face. Aren't I the one with the numbers on my side? The elven swordsman Karl descends on Jin Seo-woon with a furious 2-bladed assault. But the real threat comes from the shadows, an archer's surprise attack. Seo-woon twists aside, using his own enemy's momentum to turn the attack against them. The elf reacts with blinding speed, deflecting his partner's arrow. Seizing the opening, Seo-woon summons a shadow clone, splitting their attention. His double flees into a narrow alley, leading the hunters into a trap. The archer, Alex, refuses to be toyed with and draws his bow for a killing shot. He unleashes his triple shot, sending a volley of lethal energy down the alley. The arrows find their mark, carrying through his target's back. Convinced of his victory, Alex gloats that his aim is flawless. But the man he shot was merely bait. From the shadows, the real Seo-woon emerges to punish his opponent's arrogance. The hunter's confidence shatters. Seo-woon's palm strikes through Alex's chest from behind. A single, devastating blow is all it takes. As Alex is eliminated, Seo-woon turns to the swordsman with a chilling warning. What you see isn't always real. Karl mistakes the clone technique for simple illusion magic. Seo-woon goads him, daring the elf to try and save his fallen partner. Enraged, Carl vows not only to win this duel, but to survive it. The one-on-one battle begins, the fighters clashing on the very walls of the alley. Carl unleashes a devastating double strike, overwhelming Seo-woon with sheer power. Seo-woon stands his ground, preparing not to block, but to counter. He knows the key to a counter is to strike at the attacker's shoulder, disrupting their balance. But the elf is faster. His blade bites into Seo-woon's hand before the counter can land. The speed is unlike anything he's ever faced. Carl presses his advantage, his blade glowing with ominous energy. With his bloody rush skill, he flashes past Seo-woon, leaving a deep gash across his chest. Only the reinforcement of his inner energy saved his arm from being completely severed. Even so, Carl is stunned. The blade should have cut far deeper. In a direct confrontation, Seo-woon knows he can't win. But then he remembers, this is a tutorial. There is no penalty for failure. With nothing to lose, he takes an insane risk. He will stop relying on his eyes. He closes his eyes, focusing entirely on the flow of energy and killing intent around him. In this moment of extreme pressure, his 2 months of brutal training ignite. His innate talent for sensing energy, a gift he never knew he had, finally awakens. The world dissolves into flows of power, and he sees the elf's movements with perfect clarity. Carl's ultimate attack is stopped dead, caught in Seo-woon's bare hand. Before the elf can even comprehend what happened, Seo-woon's grip is on his head. The battle ends, and the player count drops by 1. Victorious, Seo-woon discovers that stronger players drop far better loot. He finds a much-needed recovery scroll and uses it to mend his wounds. The battle was a costly detour from his original plan to simply farm for items. From the archer's loot, he recovers a damaged cloak of hiding, a priceless item even broken. He also acquires the archer's bow, which pulses with lightning energy. And with a multi-shot skill book, he learns the technique his opponent used against him. The skill is absorbed instantly. He tests his new power, unleashing a volley of lightning arrows into a nearby wall. His search for more loot turns up only junk, pushing him to find a better location. Just then, something outside catches his eye. In the center of the town stands a large clock tower. His veteran knowledge tells him that such landmarks are always the best place to find high-tier loot. He arrives at the tower, ready to clear out anything inside. As a precaution, he closes the heavy doors behind him, sealing the entrance. But when he reaches the top, he finds nothing but empty chests. Someone had already picked it clean. His frustration is cut short by movement on the streets below. 2 players are looting carelessly out in the open, a clear invitation for any predator. From his perch in the clock tower, Seo-woon watches his new prey approach. Unaware they're being watched, the pair decides to loot the very tower Seo-woon is in. They see the closed door as a sign that the tower is still untouched. Inside, their excitement grows as they immediately find a healing scroll on the floor. But from above, Seo-woon smirks. He left that scroll there on purpose. Anyone who gets excited over a basic scroll must be weak and poorly equipped. In this world, there is only one rule. If you see a weakling, you strike them down. As 2 players gloat over their kill, an ominous shadow falls over them. Jin Soo-woon drops from the clock tower, an ambush from above. He sizes up the mage. The lack of a barrier marks him as an amateur. Seo-woon's first strike smashes through the hastily cast shield. The mage can only stare, his confidence shattered. With his opening secured, Seo-woon prepares to end it. In a panic, the mage summons a desperate fire spell. He unleashes a chaotic blast meant for his attacker. But the flame misses entirely, engulfing his own partner. His teammate Kilroy roars in agony as the magical fire refuses to die. The mage watches in horror, his mistake burning before his very eyes. Enraged, Kilroy abandons his partner and charges Seo-woon alone. Seo-woon slips past the warrior's downward swing with ease. Kilroy's frustration boils over as he swings wildly at his slippery opponent. Seo-woon leaps into the air, dodging another furious attack. But in his blind rage, Kilroy's axe finds a new target, his own mage. As his dying partner begs for help, Seo-woon seizes the opportunity. He unleashes a crushing strike, ending the mage's life. With a cold smirk, he thanks the warrior for creating the opening. Kilroy can only glare, his face a mask of pure hatred. He furiously kicks off his chest plate, declaring the armor is just slowing him down. Now unburdened, the enraged warrior issues his challenge. Seo-woon coolly analyzes the trade-off, speed for defense. Free from his armor, Kilroy brings his axe down in a mighty smash. Seo-woon leaps into the air, avoiding the ground-shattering blow. While still airborne, he pivots into a powerful straight kick. The kick connects cleanly with Kilroy's jaw. But the warrior scoffs, taunting that he can't stay in the air forever. The next attack comes faster than anticipated. Kilroy unleashes a massive horizontal swing that tears through Seo-woon's midsection. The force of the blow slices deep into the stone clock tower behind him. The attack lands, forcing Seo-woon to acknowledge the warrior's raw power. But even wounded, he asks if brute strength is all he has. As Kilroy swings again, his opponent catches the massive axe with his bare hands. But behind him, another figure emerges from the shadows. The real Seo-woon, wounded but standing, tells him to keep fighting the clone. Kilroy turns to see his true enemy standing in a nearby doorway, a mocking smile on his face. Seo-woon gestures to the massive crack in the tower's foundation, a result of Kilroy's own rampage. He lifts his foot, asking what might happen with just one little push. With a single powerful kick, he shatters the damaged support. The truth dawns on Kilroy. He was fighting a shadow all along. The clone dissolves into smoke, leaving the warrior to face his fate alone. His final scream is lost in the roar of the collapsing tower. A massive explosion marks the end of the battle. Watching the aftermath, Seo-woon has a moment of gamer panic over who gets the kill credit. The system confirms both players were eliminated. To his relief, a new rule is revealed. Inaccessible bodies spawn loot chests separately. From Kilroy's chest, he loots a glove of strength. But the mage's chest proves to be a gold mine. He's hit the jackpot, a philosopher's stone, rare scrolls, and a cursed artifact. After causing such a scene, he dons a new robe and prepares to move on. He checks his map. The restricted zone is closing in, forcing him toward the center. He quickly sets a waypoint, plotting his route. Thanks to his qigong, he travels far faster than he could in his first life. A notification alerts him he's entered a monster spawn zone. As he enters a red-tinged forest, a strange noise puts him on edge. A blood-curdling screech echoes through the trees. A moment later, a massive winged beast bursts from the shadows. Peeking through the trees, he discovers another duo already battling the creature. The new players, a mage named Woojin and a martial artist named Jo, calmly coordinate their attack. From his hiding spot, Seo-woon observes the unfamiliar pair, plotting his next move. He draws his new bow, preparing to take advantage of the chaos. And with a single glowing arrow, he opens his next hunt. Two players, Woojin and Jo, find themselves swarmed by monstrous Lamia snakes. The martial artist Jo carves a path through the horde with his 7-star sword art. His partner, Woojin, provides support, freezing the creatures with Ice Lance magic. Jo is confident the loot from this hunt will be worth the effort. But the mage knows his mana is draining dangerously low with every spell. Suddenly, a strange arrow slams into his barrier. The impact signals a new threat. Other players are hunting them. Woojin wants to flee, but Jo refuses to abandon the hunt and its reward. Panic sets in as Woojin realizes they are about to be overwhelmed. From the shadows, Seo-woon watches his plan unfold, pitting the two against each other. He lets another arrow fly, aiming to turn their bickering into true chaos. The mage screams as the second arrow streaks towards him. It shatters against another hastily erected magical barrier. As the partners scream at each other, their teamwork completely dissolves. The mage's barrier groans under the assault, threatening to shatter. But Jo's greed is absolute. He will not retreat. In a final, desperate act, Woojin unleashes a massive defensive wall. He has trapped them both inside an earthen prison. Jo can only stare, dumbfounded by his partner's catastrophic decision. For Seo-woon, the panicked mage has just made his job much easier. Jo grabs his partner, pointing out the wall only advertises their location to every enemy nearby. His point is proven as a volley of arrows rains down from above. To his horror, Jo learns the spell will take a full 5 minutes to dissipate. With his targets perfectly cornered, Seo-woon pulls out his trump card, a magic explosion scroll. The system confirms its deadly effect, a 10-second fuse before detonation. There is no hesitation. He attaches the scroll to an arrow and begins the countdown. He charges the shot with raw power, preparing to launch his deadly payload. The explosive arrow soars high, arching over the wall toward the trapped duo. It lands between them just as the timer hits 0. The resulting explosion rips through the enclosure, its power beyond even Seo-woon's expectations. He surveys the fiery aftermath of his handiwork. But from beneath the rubble, a hand twitches. Jo claws his way out, cursing the partner whose foolishness cost him everything. A sudden chilling presence makes his blood run cold. He looks up to find his executioner, arrow already knocked and aimed. Seo-woon gives his silent thanks to the dead mage who trapped them so perfectly. Jo sighs, accepting that his poor choice of allies has led him to his end. With cold efficiency, the arrow finds its mark. The appearance of a chest confirms the mage died in the initial blast. From the martial artist's loot, he recovers the 7-star cultivation art manual his victim used. He also finds Tokar's ring, a powerful magic resistance item that explains how Jo survived the explosion. Inside the mage's chest, he discovers a pure gold necklace, a fortune back in the real world. He even finds a high-tier grimoire, though it's too advanced for him to use yet. He finishes the fight alone, wondering how the duo could have struggled so much. The monsters drop several pouches of their own. Inside are valuable crafting materials and a necklace that boosts agility. After looting the field, he forms a new plan: find this world's boss monster and be the one to kill it. But he worries that other smarter players might have the same idea. The second day begins, with only 109 players left alive. His hunt for the boss takes him into a scorching desert. The sun beats down, making him question his decision to travel by day. Suddenly, a massive shadow passes over the dunes. A great phoenix-like bird flies overhead, carrying a supply drop. As the bird releases its cargo, Seo-woon sprints toward the prize. The heavy chest lands with a thud in the desert sand. But as he reaches for it, a system warning appears. Opening the chest will reveal his location for 6 hours. High reward requires high risk, and this tutorial was the perfect time for a gamble. Jin Se-woon reaches for his prize, a legendary supply drop. But the chest erupts in a brilliant beacon, screaming his location to every player nearby. He has to move now, before the wolves descend. Inside, he finds a rare cloak of hiding and a powerful red cloud pill. The haul is incredible: a circle stone, a grimoire, and a cloud stride movement manual. But his face falls. The cloak is useless in daylight, and the other items come with a heavy price. With no time to spare, he decides to master the cloud stride technique on the spot. Energy courses through him as he internalizes the martial art in an instant. With his new speed, Seo-woon bolts from the compromised location. But it's too late. His senses scream a warning of approaching enemies. Multiple hostiles are closing fast, drawn by the light. He gambles that they won't know which direction he fled. Using the terrain, he navigates down a steep cliff face to cover his tracks. Meanwhile, a Roman knight and a masked mage arrive at the now empty supply drop. The knight believes their target is close, but his partner's detection magic comes up empty. The mage is baffled. The looter left no magical trace. Then, the knight discovers a single gem left behind. They've found his trail, or so they think. From a safe distance, Seo-woon watches his pursuers take the bait. The decoy worked perfectly. Now he has 30 minutes to put as much distance as possible between them. He finally takes a moment to rest in a petrified forest. But his brief respite shatters as he senses a new threat closing in. Multiple parties are converging on his position. Suddenly, a binding spell erupts from the ground, trapping him against a tree. An instant later, an explosive fire spell hurtles toward him. He pushes his body to its limit, using Cloud Stride to dive from the Inferno's path. He runs through the flames, but his hunters are still gaining on him at an impossible speed. The answer charges through the fire. The Roman knight is on a warhorse. Seo-woon's escape plan crumbles. His pursuers are mounted. The duo attacks in perfect unison, the mage launching a fire spell from horseback. There's no outrunning them. He has to fight. The mage directs his flames, attempting to corner his prey. To counter their speed, Seo-woon unleashes his martial phantom step, creating a host of shadow clones. The clones intercept the fireballs in a massive explosion, buying him a precious second. The knight thunders forward, spear leveled to kill. His blood runs cold. The knight saw through the illusion and is targeting his real body. He twists away, the spearhead grazing his cheek. As the weapon smashes into the earth, Seo-woon grabs hold of the shaft. Now wielding his enemy's spear, he plants his feet for a desperate counterattack. He channels all his inner energy into a single, all-or-nothing throw. With a roar, he hurls the spear back at its owner. The spear finds its mark, impaling the knight through the arm. The knight rips the broken spearhead from his armor, unfazed by the wound. But before the duel can resume, a new danger sets Seo-woon's teeth on edge. A volley of arrows rains down, targeting everyone on the battlefield. Seo-woon's speed keeps him alive as he weaves through the deadly barrage. The knight is not so lucky. His mount cries out as arrows find their mark. He's thrown from his dying warhorse, his greatest advantage lost. The relentless assault takes down the mage's mount as well, evening the odds. From the trees, a new team reveals itself, a duo of hooded archers. The duel has become a chaotic free-for-all. The battlefield is now a three-way death trap, and he's standing right in the center. His escape is cut short. Seo-woon is trapped in a pincer attack. Pinned from both sides, he faces the worst possible outcome. The archers draw their bows, ready to fire at the slightest provocation. The Roman knight dismisses the newcomers as mere flies, while his partner senses the growing danger. Seo-woon mocks the archers, asking where their confidence has gone now that the tables have turned. He calculates the brutal odds of this stalemate. For one team to survive, two must fall. To them, he is nothing but a temporary pawn, to be used and discarded. But the Roman knight relishes the odds, eager to challenge them all. He issues a simple threat to the archers: get lost or get skewered. One of the archers, an elf, reveals a deep-seated hatred for the knight's kingdom. He offers Seowon an alliance, help them kill the knight and live. Seowon feigns ignorance, buying precious seconds to think. Trapped in a web of grudges he doesn't understand, he searches for an escape. Then, an idea sparks, a chance to exploit their greed. He presents a new prize, a high-level circle stone worth a fortune. He places the priceless artifact at the center of the battlefield. The team that wins the fight, he declares, keeps the stone. Blinded by avarice, both sides agree to his terms. As the battle for the prize is about to erupt, Seowon uses the distraction to make his escape. The stone's long casting time makes it perfect bait, and he plans to collect it from the battered winner. But with 5 hours still left in the tutorial, his ordeal is far from over. He finally reaches his destination, the edge of a deep, foreboding valley. This place is unsettling, a perfect den for a hidden boss. But as he rests, a pillar of light erupts from his body, broadcasting his location to everyone. On the cliff above, his pursuers appear, the Roman knight and his mage partner. Somehow they tracked him down, and they are here for revenge. The mage declares his tricks have run out and gathers a massive inferno. He unleashes the devastating power of the Phoenix Strike. Seowon uses his martial phantom step in a desperate attempt to evade, but the sheer scale of the attack is impossible to overcome. His scream echoes as the flames consume him. His body plummets into the dark abyss below. The knight complains that the body is now too far down to loot. Convinced he's dead, they prepare to leave before the light from their attack draws unwanted attention. The mage's greed, however, won't let him leave the potential loot behind. He offers to use levitation magic to retrieve the body, but the knight insists on coming along. The mage coldly warns him that if he falls, the rope will be cut without hesitation. Levitation magic is a dangerous art, known by some as the suicide spell. It requires immense concentration, leaving the caster unable to use other spells while airborne. While levitating, a mage is utterly defenseless. As they descend into the darkness, the mage calmly guides them down. The knight's nerve raise, but his partner offers no sympathy for his choice. Suddenly, the rope securing the knight begins to snap. He lets out a scream of pure terror and accuses his partner of betrayal. But when he looks up, he finds his partner already dead, hanging lifelessly from the rope. The knight severs the line, sending the corpse plunging down. It crashes into a hidden pool of water far below. After all their trouble, there was water at the bottom the entire time. Soaked and shivering, the knight emerges from the depths. He stares at the floating body of his partner, unable to process the chaos. His partner was murdered while defenseless in the air, but if the mage is dead, then who did they just kill? The Roman knight reels in disbelief. The man he'd left for dead is very much alive. Before he can react, Seowon descends from above in a surprise attack. He smashes a bone shatter strike into the knight's skull. The knight roars, refusing to be taken down by a simple ambush. He unleashes his counterattack, a deadly, whip-like chainsword. The blade instantly ensnares Seowon's arm. His eyes blaze red as he analyzes the troublesome weapon. With a surge of strength, he catches the blade mid-swing. The sharp links tear into his flesh, drawing blood. Ignoring the pain, he heaves the chain upwards, lifting the knight clean out of the water. As the knight screams, Seowon prepares to end the fight. He grabs his enemy's helmet, pulling him close for the final blow. If he wasn't prepared to die, he never should have crossed him. A cold, merciless resolve hardens his features. He tackles his opponent, dragging them both into the dark abyss. A torrent of inner energy floods the water around the knight's head. The helmet buckles under the immense pressure, silencing his pleas. With a final, brutal surge of power, the knight is executed. Blood blooms in the water as Seowon rises from his hard-won victory. The system confirms his kills: the knight, Kelly Carl, and the mage, Davidson. Back on dry land, he hauls the heavy spoils of war from the chasm. Inside, he finds a powerful Phoenix Strike grimoire, though its Circle 4 requirement is currently beyond his grasp. He acknowledges the underwater terrain nearly cost him the fight. He also claims the knight's versatile chainsword. Though he lacks swordsmanship, the weapon and its subspace ring are too valuable to discard. Suddenly, his senses flare: more players are approaching. A duo arrives, drawn by the same pillar of light. They find only empty chests, the prize already claimed. As they turn to leave empty-handed, a predator emerges from the shadows behind them. Cloaked in darkness, Seowon lunges at his unsuspecting prey. He lands a fatal blow before either player can register the attack. One man dies instantly, his partner frozen in the face of sudden death. In the darkness, with his stealth, he is a god. A few hours later, a system announcement declares the final tutorial rankings will be displayed. Seo-woon catches his breath after hours of relentless combat. He stands over a graveyard of loot chests, unimpressed by the weaklings who fell before him, but his instincts scream a warning as something slices through the air. He snatches an arrow from the air, inches from his face. The elven archers who'd cornered him before look on in disbelief. He greets the winners of their last encounter with a cold smirk. Before they can draw their bows, Seo-woon closes the distance with lethal speed. Both elves fall in a single bloody instant. He loots their valuable Tokar's rings. One can never have too many useful items. The handicap from his last absorption has ended, and he prepares to ascend once more with a Circle 4 stone and a Red Cloud pill. He finds a secluded cave, a perfect place for the ritual. For the first time all day, he sits, the ground littered with the spoils of his hunts. The process will take 6 hours, a long time in a world where every second counts. He consumes the Red Cloud pill, bracing for the transformation. For 6 hours, he meditates under the night sky, absorbing the item's immense power. He emerges from the cave reborn, his body overflowing with new strength. His inner energy has grown, but it's still a shadow of the power he felt absorbing Nam Sagwang's life force. His thoughts are cut short as he senses movement in the distance. More players, more prey. With his new strength, every survivor on the field has become a target. His ruthless hunt continues until sunrise. The system marks the dawn of day 3. Resting atop his horde, he checks the current survivor count. Only 42 players remain, and a new event is announced. The locations of boss and buff monsters are now revealed. A map appears, marking boss monsters in purple and the more tempting buff monsters in red. One of the red buff monster icons is nearby. A potential power-up is something he can't afford to ignore. He arrives at the location, but what he finds leaves him speechless. Peering into a chasm, he is confronted by the colossal form of a sleeping beast. He knows instantly that this creature is far too powerful for him to face alone. Just then, a massive, slitted yellow eye snaps open, locking its gaze directly on him. He is frozen, pinned by the sheer, overwhelming presence of a waking god. Arriving at his destination, Seo-woon finds not a simple buff monster, but a colossal serpent. This is a raid-level threat, far beyond what any single player should face. Before he can react, the gigantic beast lunges with terrifying speed. He's frozen by the creature's explosive attack. But just as suddenly, the serpent halts its charge. The massive creature settles back into its coil, passive unless provoked. Acknowledging a fight he can't win, Seo-woon feigns nonchalance and walks away. Later, his patrol is interrupted by a rustle in the bushes. Without hesitation, he unleashes a wind blade at the sound. His magic slices through the foliage, revealing the source. A child's scream cuts through the air. A small, terrified boy stumbles out, pleading for his life. The weight of his mistake hits him. He almost killed a helpless child. But as he questions the boy, an ambusher, Aoyama Haruto, strikes from behind. Seo-woon sidesteps the clumsy attack with ease. He retaliates instantly with a powerful palm strike to his attacker's chest. The force of the blow sends Aoyama flying, gasping for air. Seo-woon's expression turns to ice. He follows up with a relentless barrage of wind blades that shreds the man's defenses. He sees the boy's old, crudely healed wounds and understands the despicable strategy. This child was used as bait. Of all the scum he's met in this game, this man is the absolute worst. Aoyama, battered but not broken, admits Seo-woon is stronger than he expected. In a desperate move, he pulls out a flame orb looted from another player. He hurls the magical item, screaming that all of Seo-woon's power will soon be his. The world turns to fire as the flame orb detonates. Confident in his victory, Aoyama sits back, waiting for the smoke to clear. But a voice from the inferno mocks him for relying on cheap tricks. Seo-woon emerges from the blaze completely unscathed, his magic resistance nullifying the spell. Aoyama can only stare as his trump card amounts to nothing. Before the man can process it, Seo-woon is on him, his hand crushing his face. He coldly reminds him that in a tutorial where death isn't permanent, there are far worse things than being killed. A sickening crunch echoes as his grip shatters the bones in the man's face. One final brutal punch ends the despicable player's game. With the fight over, the terrified little boy Lyle collapses and cries for his mother. Seo-woon calls out to him, startling the child. His entire demeanor shifts as he gently asks the boy's name. The child timidly introduces himself as 9-year-old Lyle. In the boy's terror, he sees a reflection of his own first brutal days in this world. Deciding he can't leave him defenseless, he offers a powerful magic stone and a bag of jerky. The items materialize in the boy's hands, a lifeline in this brutal world. With these gifts, he tells the boy to survive, because this game can also be an opportunity. Lyle can only stare at the life-saving gifts, his eyes welling with tears. As Siwoo walks away, the boy shouts his thanks with all his might. The act of kindness makes him think of his own master, Zhang Daoten, the man to whom he owes his life. A system alert suddenly announces that a duo including Hayami Ren has given up on the boss monster. The name Hayami Ren is instantly familiar. He remembers the smug high schooler from the pre-game lobby who rejected his offer to team up. Sensing an opportunity, he rushes to the boss's location to ambush the exhausted duo. Peeking from the tree line, he prepares to strike, but instead of 2 players, he finds a chaotic standoff over the boss's corpse. Multiple factions are already arguing over who gets the loot. A warrior from the Imperial faction declares their truce void, accusing another group of kill-stealing. In response, a warrior from the Thistle faction dares them to start an all-out brawl. Hayami Ren watches from the side, mocking their so-called honor. A female martial artist steps forward, cutting through the arguments. She challenges Hayami Ren directly, demanding he split the rewards. Ren scoffs at her offer, pointing out there's barely enough loot for one. The martial artist's expression hardens. A fight is now inevitable. Taking a fighting stance, she declares her intent to kill everyone present and claim all the rewards for herself. From his hiding spot, Siwoo wishes he had popcorn for the show that's about to unfold. Then, a voice calls out, not to the warriors in the clearing, but to the shadows where Siwoo hides. As factions face off, the Murr warrior Pike waits for the legendary killer, Aoyama Haruto, to make his move. To smoke him out, Hayami Ren dangles the ultimate prize, the boss reward, the ant's heart. Watching from the shadows, Jin Siwoo scoffs as the pretender uses his infamous alias. Ren enchants a simple pouch, cloaking it in the blinding aura of a priceless artifact. The crowd gasps. An item rumored to be worth a castle is right before their eyes. The trap is brilliant, using a legendary item to leverage a legendary killer's reputation. Ren throws the fake reward to the ground, a public challenge for Aoyama to claim his prize. Greed instantly shatters the fragile alliance. Ren's enforcer Drift watches the chaos unfold exactly as planned. Pike can only watch in disgust as her forces tear each other apart for a phantom treasure. With her remaining loyalists, she unleashes her power and gives chase. From his perch, Siwoo observes the fractured mob, their unity broken by a simple trick. Now, with his enemies divided, it's finally time to join the hunt. As the sounds of battle fade, Ren and Drift make their escape. But Drift grows tired of running. He came here for a fight. Ren smirks, fleeing was never the true plan. Below, Pike and her remaining warriors regroup for a final, desperate counterattack. A flicker of movement in the trees alerts her. The ambush is sprung. Drift hefts his hammer, his grin promising a brutal fight. From his vantage point, Ren gathers an immense storm of magical energy. He unleashes chain lightning upon the unsuspecting warriors below. Arcs of raw power tear through the battlefield, striking friend and foe alike. Pike stares at the devastation. A single spell has decimated her forces. In that moment of distraction, Drift makes his move. His hammer crashes down, but Pike is already gone, leaping clear of the blow. She counters with her own power, the Ice Gauntlet technique. A wave of frost surges from the earth to meet his attack. The hammer's crushing momentum is stopped cold, encased in solid ice. With a furious roar, Drift brings the frozen weapon down for another strike. But Pike meets the blow head-on, her hand channeling chilling energy directly into the hammer. She focuses her inner power, preparing to turn everything to frost. Her technique shatters the ice on his hammer, driving him back. Drift looks down in horror as the frost creeps up his own arm, freezing him solid. But as she presses her advantage, the sky crackles with electricity once more. Ren launches another bolt, aiming to finish her from above. The lightning strikes and harmlessly dissipates into the ground around her. Ren's confidence shatters. She was never vulnerable to his magic. Pike reveals her true power. She can use her own chi to ground any electrical attack. His magic nullified, Ren abandons his spellcasting. He tries one last bolt, but the electricity is drawn harmlessly up the tree beneath his feet. His primary weapon is completely useless against her. If magic won't work, he'll settle this with a blade. Ren leaps from the tree, charging the Miram warrior with a sword. Pike stops the blade with her bare hands, her martial skill far surpassing his. A mage who also wields a sword, this opponent is full of deadly surprises. Suddenly, a system notification echoes through the battlefield. It's a kill announcement. Aoyama Haruto has defeated Pike's comrade. The split-second distraction is all Ren needs to land a devastating blow to her shoulder. With his opponent wounded, he moves in for the kill. Pike grits her teeth, finally facing the man she believes is the legendary Aoyama Haruto. But before Ren can strike, an arrow whistles from the trees and pierces Drift's hand. The real Aoyama Haruto steps from the shadows, his bow drawn. Seowon levels his gaze at the imposter. Did you truly think you could use my name without consequence? He draws his bow, his demand simple, hand over the ant's heart. Ren forces a smile, claiming the prize is long gone, used as a decoy. An arrow slices past Ren's cheek, drawing blood. The message is clear, he is not in a position to lie. Seowon confirms he saw the empty bag from the start, and now he'll take the real item from their corpses. Drift roars and charges, convinced an archer is easy prey up close. Seowon sidesteps the clumsy attack with contemptuous ease. A single fluid motion of his blade is all it takes. As Drift's body falls, Ren's system confirms the kill. His ally was defeated in an instant. Ren's facade crumbles, and he asks a desperate question. How many times have you been through this game? The question hangs in the air, a plea for some rational explanation for this impossible power. Seowon's answer is simple, and all the more terrifying for it. This is my second time. The answer drives Ren into a rage. He unleashes his ultimate spell, refusing to be beaten by a novice. But Seowon is already gone, a shadow cone left in his place as the real one appears behind Ren with a readied arrow. As the kill notification appears, a flicker of doubt crosses his mind, but survival leaves no room for mercy. After killing another player, Jin Seowon absorbs his victim's life chi. Among the spoils, he discovers a mysterious chest. The system announces a rare drop, a golden weapon box. His victim never even had a chance to open his greatest treasure. Eager for a new weapon, he reaches in to claim his prize. Anticipation builds as golden light pours from the box. But inside is just a small, useless-looking blue slime. He'd hoped for a legendary sword or bow, not this. Deciding it's worthless, he moves to toss it aside. But a voice suddenly echoes in his mind, calling him masters. The slime erupts into a massive horned spirit who introduces himself as the great Elsius Hammett. Seowon remains unimpressed by the boastful spirit. Hammett claims he can transform into the ultimate version of any weapon his master desires. But Seowon bluntly informs him that he doesn't use weapons. The mighty spirit can only stare back, dumbfounded. Hammett recovers, proudly transforming into a dazzling golden gauntlet designed to shatter anything. Seowon immediately rejects it as too heavy and restrictive for his fighting style. Adapting, Hammett tries again, shifting into sleek, dark gauntlets built for speed. But even this form fails to impress his picky new master. Fed up, Seowon prepares to banish the talkative spirit to his inventory. Hammett panics, pleading for one last chance to prove his worth. Seowon makes an unusual request, an extremely durable piece of cloth. The great weapon spirit is ordered to become a rag. Despite Hammett's humiliated complaints, the new hand wrap form feels surprisingly good. Seowon declares it's a perfect fit, much to the spirit's chagrin. But Hammett reveals that shape-shifting is only his first ability. A magical roulette wheel materializes before them. He explains that once a day, Seowon can spin for a powerful random spell, even one that can grant revival. The power to cheat death itself hangs in the air. The spin can be used at any time but only once per day. Suddenly, Hammett's expression darkens. He warns his master of a powerful killing intent locked onto them. Another hunter has found him. Though Seowon can't sense it, Hammett's instincts have never failed. Seowon grabs an airboard, but not to escape. He's going to play the victim and lure the ambushers into the open. Hammett reads his intent, revealing their minds are now linked through their bond. Just then, an arrow screams out of the darkness. The shot lands true, and Seowon collapses to the ground. His attackers follow up with a massive blast of magic. A fiery explosion engulfs the clearing. His body lies motionless, the trap seemingly successful. An archer named Mark emerges from the shadows to confirm his kill. His partner, a witch, warns him that since the kill log is empty, their target is still alive. She urges him to finish the job before their prey can recover. The archer draws his bow for one final, fatal shot. But the arrow stops dead, caught in his target's hand. The hand wrap, once a source of ridicule, proves its impossible durability. The archer's confidence shatters as he stares in disbelief. Seowon smirks, his faith in his new weapon confirmed. The ambusher screams for his partner to attack with everything she has. But Seowon is already moving, drawing a chainsword from his inventory. In a single fluid motion, he strikes the archer down. The witch watches her partner fall, her face a mask of terror. She abandons the fight, making a desperate escape on her broomstick. Seowon watches her flee into the distance. He decides she's no longer a threat and lets her go. With so few players left, he predicts the game will be over in 2 more days. But his prediction was wrong. On day 20, with only 12 survivors remaining, the true test of endurance has just begun. Day 20, with only 12 survivors left, Seowon knows he can't afford to hide. But after 10 days of fruitless searching, frustration sets in. His spirit weapon, Hammett, confirms it. The forest is unnaturally silent. Hammett questions why he hunts so desperately. The spirit suggests patience. The other players will eventually have to show themselves. But Seo-woon has a different strategy. His name dominates the kill log. If the other 11 unite against him, he is dead. Hammett offers a new target, the area's buff monster, the Black Argon. A colossal serpent looms in the darkness, a beast of immense power. Seo-woon knows he can't possibly take it down alone, but Hammett sees the truth. His master never intended to fight it head-on. With his plan exposed, Seo-woon's grin says it all. The hunt for players is over. The hunt for the beast begins. He arrives to find an entire party already locked in a desperate battle with the monster. Their leader rallies the exhausted team. The serpent is nearly dead. The Black Argon unleashes a final, defiant roar. But then, a warrior spots a figure in the sky. Panic spreads through the ranks. The player killer, Aoyama Haruto, has arrived. The detection magic found him, but Seo-woon isn't concerned. He lands with casual confidence, dismissing his ride. Hammett confirms the number, 11 players, a unified mob. In fact, every other survivor in the game is gathered in this one spot. A strange barrier keeps him at a distance, forcing him to watch. He draws his bow, ready to turn their battle into his opportunity, and releases a single, disruptive shot. Below, the party's lead warrior pushes for the final blow. He leaps into the air, his sword raised for the kill. But an arrow charged with lightning slams into his back. His attack is cut short, his body frozen in midair. Paralyzed by the electric current, the warrior can only scream. The Black Argon seizes its chance, swallowing him whole. The martial artist Liu Xiaofeng spots the archer and gives a new command: abandon the hunt and kill Aoyama Haruto. From his perch, Seo-woon calculates his next move. The monster is on its last legs. Suddenly, the air behind him ripples with danger. An arrow whistles past his head, a message from his new rival. Liu Xiaofeng catches his own projectile, his eyes fixed on Seo-woon's hiding spot. The hunt is on. Seo-woon allows a small smile. This one is sharp. He decides to end this farce. He pours his inner energy into the bow, charging a single, overwhelming shot, and unleashes an arrow of pure, destructive light. It streaks through the air, aimed not at the players but at their prize. The arrow finds its mark inside the Black Argon's gaping mouth. A blinding light erupts from within the beast. The monster screams its last as it's vaporized into nothing. The surviving players stare at the empty space where the beast once stood. Chaos erupts as they scramble to find out which of them landed the final blow. But as the dust settles, a dreadful quiet falls over them. No one got the buff. On his cliff, a system notification congratulates Seo-woon on his successful kill. As the system confirms his new 30-stat boost, he offers a silent thank you to the players who did all the work. But his victory is short-lived. A glowing sphere of light marks his position, and a player shouts, "There he is." Blinded by rage, they forget his new power, convinced their numbers will be enough. Seo-woon leaps from his hiding spot to meet their charge. The 10 remaining players surge forward as one, desperate to reclaim their prize. Liu Xiaofeng leads the assault, unleashing his Black Star Chi Palms. Seo-woon scoffs at the attack. It's far too slow. He counters with a single move, spatial strikes. A wave of blue energy shatters their formation, blasting the players into oblivion. He stands over the carnage, his voice cutting through the silence. Is that all you've got? With his new buff rendered useless by their caution, Seo-woon knows he has to strike first. And so, he decides to seize the initiative. His target, the mage whose barrier is already broken, he'll show them exactly what they're up against. Seo-woon leaps over the front line, aiming for their vulnerable casters. Seeing the threat, bitter rivals Liu Xiaofeng and the Viking warrior are forced to cooperate. Together they meet his downward strike, their crossed swords stopping him cold. Their teamwork only stalls him for a moment. He channels the unstoppable fist, shattering their defense with raw strength. As one warrior dodges, Liu Xiaofeng unleashes his quaking dragon flash. But the lightning-fast strike is still too slow for his enhanced senses. To Liu Xiaofeng's disbelief, he easily sidesteps the deadly blade. The flexible sword continues its assault, forcing him on the defensive. Suddenly, the whip-like blade ensnares his arm, trapping him. The other players seize the opening, lunging in for a coordinated kill. Pinned and defenseless, Seo-woon calls out to his weapon spirit, Hammett. He begs the spirit to transform into a defensive form. Instantly, his blade becomes a shield, blocking the fatal blow from behind. But he can't block every attack, and another blade cuts deep into his shoulder. He grabs the Viking warrior by the face. A single, brutal strike ends the man's life. He leaps back, putting distance between himself and the mob. but one of the mages reveals they knew his reputation for slaughter. In fact, they came with a special countermeasure prepared just for him. The horned mage, Zephyna, has been waiting for this exact moment. She unleashes Disol, a powerful curse that engulfs him completely. The system confirms his worst fear. All stats are reduced by a crippling 40%. Sensing his weakness, the remaining players smell blood in the water in charge. Weakened, he still braces for the onslaught. He blocks a knight's heavy blow, but the impact sends a shock of pain up his arm. The coordinated assault forces him to give ground. He's forced into the air to dodge, playing right into their trap. A mage unleashes a massive fireball, giving him no room to escape. The explosion consumes him mid-air. He crashes to the ground, smoking and heavily wounded. He grits his teeth. The only thing keeping him alive is the buff he stole, barely offsetting the curse. Through the chaos, his eyes are drawn to a single player in the back who hasn't moved. Another mage boasts that his magic resistance won't save him this time. The young caster unleashes Stone Edge, summoning massive pillars of rock from the ground. Jagged spears of rock erupt from the earth, boxing him in. The ground shatters beneath his feet, destroying his footing. His movements are sealed, and a massive attack forms beneath him. A gigantic fist of stone erupts, slamming into him with devastating force. The impact leaves him broken and bleeding on the battlefield. Seeing their chance, the warriors leap in to deliver the final blow. But suddenly, a single blade of wind flies from the tree line, aimed not at him, but at the mages. The spell strikes Zephyna, killing her instantly and shattering the curse. His full power surges back in an instant. With his strength restored, he narrowly dodges the killing blow. Lu Xiaofeng can only stare, unable to comprehend how he recovered. Before the warrior can react, Xiao Wun's hand pierces straight through his chest. His gaze falls upon a small, familiar figure in the trees, Lyle. The boy he helped looks on, pleading for his hero to win. But that hope is cut short as the warrior smith drives a blade through the defenseless child's back. Witnessing the boy's murder, something inside Xiao Wun snaps. A blind rage takes over as he carves a path through his enemies. He unleashes all his fury on the man who killed the child. This isn't a fight for survival anymore, it's a massacre. When the red haze finally clears, he is the only one left standing. The system declares the game over, he has won, and now he must do it all over again. The game is over, but for Jin Seowun, the memory of his last defeat is a fresh wound. But this time, the system declares him the victor, the final survivor. The victory is hollow, glowing chests filled with loot shimmer just out of reach as the timer runs out. He lunges, his fingers inches from the prize, but the world dissolves around him, pulling him into the reward lobby. His frustration vanishes when he sees his payout, 355 coins, a staggering reward for his kill streak. His sentient weapon Hummet immediately claims all the credit, but Seowun just glances at the spirit's 100 coin price. The weapon spear begs to be purchased, but Seowun considers him far too expensive. While the spirit pitches his value, Seowun's eyes drift to a far more practical item, the Cloak of Hiding. He then toys with the idea of gambling on a new weapon, and Hammet's bravado shatters. The announcement of a special roulette for the top survivors only feeds the spirit's panic. As the game's winner, Seowun is granted 3 spins on the wheel. The wheel spins. Seowun wants a prize. Hammet just wants to avoid being replaced. With a shout, he wills the wheel to stop. His first spin is a bust, landing on a worthless 1-coin necklace. He scoffs at the cheap prize, while Hammet breathes a sigh of relief. He tries again, calling for the second spin to stop. The wheel lands on the one prize Hammet desperately wanted. Hammet erupts in celebration, and Seowun shrugs. At least he saved 100 coins. His final spin yields a fragmented secret tome, an item of unknown potential. He inspects the fragment, wondering just what secrets it holds. He invests his coins wisely, purchasing the Cloak of Hiding and a horde of other power-ups. His shopping complete, Seowun braces for his return to the real world. He rematerializes on a hiking trail, his blood-soaked clothes terrifying the locals. He quickly plays it off as makeup for a film shoot. Back in his apartment, he can already feel the raw power coursing through him. He strips off his ruined jersey, another casualty of the game. His favorite shirt lands in the trash, a necessary sacrifice. Back home, he prepares to power up, prioritizing the upgrades that will take the longest. He starts with the 4-circle stone. The stone floods his body with 3 hours of pure agony. He follows it with the red cloud pill, which brings another 3 hours of torment. 6 hours later, he collapses, drenched in sweat. The price of power never gets easier to pay. But the agony was worth it. His mana core is full and his body is stronger than ever. He pulls up his status window to see the results. The leap in his energy and mana is staggering, a sign of how brutal the next game will be. But just as he thinks of food, an angry voice erupts from his inventory. Hammett bursts from the inventory, demanding attention, but Seo-woon just dismisses him as noisy. While the spirit rants, he nonchalantly asks his phone for a nearby Chinese restaurant. The spirit gawks as a voice emanates from the small box in Seo-woon's hand. Seo-woon smirks. In this world, a talking weapon isn't so special. As Hammett argues his own superiority, his master's food order is confirmed. Seo-woon then considers a new problem, carrying a giant sword in a world with weapon laws. The spirit offers a solution, transforming into the hand wraps from the game. Seo-woon dismisses the look as too strange for public. Hammett's next idea, a conspicuous cape, is even worse. Finally, they settle on a discreet necklace form. This new form, Hammett boasts, comes with a built-in killing intent detector. A few minutes later, the delivery containers are scraped clean. After surviving on dried rations, greasy food is a gift from the heavens. Rested and fed, he gets dressed to head out. He dismisses Hammett's questions, telling him he'll find out soon enough. At the PC cafe, an employee asks if he'll be joining the latest tournament for his old favorite game, but he tells her he's found a far more interesting game. Compared to the death game, Logs is nothing more than a cheap imitation. He sits down at the terminal. After a taste of real survival, there's no going back. But he isn't here to play games, he's here to hunt for information on his rivals. He begins his search for any information on Cloyd survival. He knows players communicate on the deep web, and follows a guide to connect. Amidst the digital noise, one banner stands out, the survivor's message board. He clicks the link, his expression turning deadly serious. A single ominous question fills the screen. Are you a survivor? For a survivor, there is only one choice. He has stepped out of the game and into a whole new battlefield. He finds a login page for a survivor's forum, its design mimicking the Cloyd survival game, a sign it was built by a veteran. But his first attempt is met with a rude command prompt, get lost. He correctly guesses the aggressive message is a test, and is immediately prompted for a password. Suddenly, a mysterious hacker taunts him, revealing they've already pinpointed his location at a Yokohama net cafe. For the first time, Seo-woon is caught completely off guard, but he remains unfazed, coolly demanding to be let in. The system issues a new challenge, prove he's a true survivor. He examines a fragmented image puzzle, trying to identify the picture. Then, a spark of recognition. It's the iconic statue from the Cloyd survival pre-game lobby. He now understands the test is designed to weed out anyone who hasn't been in the game. With a few clicks, he correctly reassembles the statue's image. Authentication is successful, and the gate opens. The community promises total anonymity, issuing him a private ID for login. He saves the new credentials, securing his access to this vital new world. He decides to start with the beginner tips, to get his bearings. The guide's first warning is stark: never reveal your abilities in public. It claims government-backed organizations are actively hunting new survivors, and warns him not to think he's special just for making it out alive. To prevent chaos, these groups will use any means necessary to control ability users. Seo-woon scoffs at the warnings of kidnapping, questioning if such things still happen in the modern era. He moves on to a section for those who want to sell their in-game items. A greedy glint appears in his eye as he learns of a dark web market where items can be sold for cash. Intrigued by the prospect of profit, he navigates to the market forum. Deciding to see what's most valuable, he filters the market listings. The prices are astronomical. A single elixir is listed for 20 million. His jaw drops when he sees a time-sensitive request with a staggering reward of 100 million. The item in question is a failed ointment that guarantees hair growth. Even trash items have incredible value. He commits the name Corte Empire to memory, knowing an item's origin is the key to profit. Reading through bodyguard requests, he sees why run counts are a status symbol experience can earn millions. The truth lands with chilling clarity. This is why the other players were so desperate to kill him. Then he stumbles upon a familiar-sounding thread, a veteran mage beaten by a second-run player. His eyes narrow as he recognizes the author's name, High School Mage. The replies are a storm of mockery, flaming the player for losing a 2-on-1 fight. With Hammett looking on, he correctly deduces the post was made by the high schooler he defeated, Hayami Ren. A pang of guilt hits him as he remembers how coldly he treated his fellow countrymen. Just then, a chat notification pops up from that very same user. Hayami Ren asks if it's really him, and if it was truly his second run. Hayami explains his strength was so abnormal, he suspected him of being a fixed player. He eagerly pushes to meet in person, asking to be called by his game name Haruto. Seo-woon grows suspicious, wondering if this is a trap to settle their in-game score. Hayami insists he won't regret it, urging him to team up for when they become a fixed team. Desperate to meet, Hayami insists they meet at Yokohama Station. Seiwon agrees to meet in an hour, and Hayami enthusiastically logs off. But as he leaves the net cafe, he can't shake the feeling he's walking into a trap. An hour passes and night falls as he makes his way to the meeting spot. He arrives on the bustling street, standing out as the only one alone. His sentient weapon, Hammett, appears to tease him about it, earning a sharp rebuke. Suddenly, a sleek motorcycle weaves through the crowd, turning heads. Seiwon cynically assumes the rider is just some rich kid showing off. The bike stops directly in front of him. When the rider calls out his game name, Haruto, he knows exactly who it is. Removing his helmet, Hayami Ren smiles, admitting it feels surreal to meet someone from the game in real life. As they enter a coffee shop, Seiwon gets his first clear look at his former opponent. While the barista fawns over him, Seiwon can't help but note his rival has a punchable face. Once they're seated, Seiwon cuts to the chase, demanding to know why he was called here. Hayami bluntly states his desire to join Seiwon's team. Seiwon is floored that he's talking so openly about being free players in a public cafe. But Hayami reveals a sound-dampening pendant crafted by a real-world alchemist that keeps their conversation private. The idea that such items can be crafted on Earth is a revelation. Hayami once again seeks confirmation that this was truly his second run. Seiwon nonchalantly reveals he placed second in his first game and first in his second. Hayami is utterly floored, exclaiming he's only ever heard of such a feat on the forums. The word retired catches Seiwon's attention, a piece of slang he hasn't heard. Hayami clarifies that retired means eliminated. Failure locks a player out of Cloyd forever. With the stakes laid bare, Hayami makes his final plea to join his team, predicting they'll both become fixed players. He explains that only fixed players can form official parties and guarantee they enter the same game together. Seiwon cuts through the details with a blunt question: does he just want to play with him? With a wide, eager smile, Hayami confirms it. After their long discussion, it's already past 1 in the morning. Walking home, Hammett questions his decision to team up with a former enemy. The demon reminds him that the valuable golden weapon box he holds was originally Hayami's loot. Seiwon dismisses his concerns, explaining that without coins, even the best items are useless in the real world. But Hammett's playful tone vanishes, replaced by an urgent warning of nearby killing intent. He counts 3 hostiles. As a shadow rises behind him, the hunt begins. Hammett, his sentient weapon, alerts him to 3 hostiles closing in, but Seiwon has already sensed them, unimpressed by their clumsy attempt to hide. He pinpoints the first, a masked man lurking in the alley. He identifies the second, their leader, hiding behind a utility pole. Tired of the game, Seiwon calls for them to show themselves. One of the men emerges from the shadows, chiding him for his arrogance. Now surrounded, Seiwon calmly demands their business. The goon cracks his knuckles, warning that cooperation would have saved him some pain. He can only laugh at their amateurish intimidation tactics. He correctly identifies them as the beginner hunters thugs who prey on new players. Hammett offers to engage, but Seiwon dismisses them as not worth the effort. Instead, a crushing blue aura erupts from his body. The hunters freeze, realizing he is no mere beginner. With a single gesture, he unleashes a shockwave that blasts one of them off his feet. His eyes blaze with power as he offers them one last chance to walk away. Terrified, the hunters desperately claim they are acting on official state orders. Their leader Han attempts a bluff, classifying Seiwon as a terrorist under the National Security Act. Seiwon scoffs at the idea of surrendering to government lapdogs with no real authority. He decides these thugs need to be taught a lesson. In a flash, he closes the distance to the masked assailant. His punch halts just millimeters from the man's face, a terrifying display of speed and control. The man collapses, and Seiwon reminds him who drew their weapon first. The leader can only berate his subordinate for underestimating their target. Seiwon finds it insulting they ever thought they could restrain him. The hunter's face drains of color as the truth dawns on him. This is no rookie. With his shadow cone technique, Seiwon surrounds them completely. He makes his terms clear. If they leave him alone, he'll do the same. His clones stand ready as he delivers one final piece of advice. Next time, he warns, properly gauge your opponent's strength. As Seiwon turns his back, the leader hastily orders his men to stand down. Hammett questions his mercy, but Seiwon reminds him that on Earth, killing has consequences. Back in his apartment, he wonders how they tracked him down. The answer is simple. He sold a magical necklace from the game for cash. He decides against moving. If they come for him again, he'll show them his true power. Later, he reflects on the offer from his former opponent, Hayami Ren. To stay at the top, he must use every resource available. But training his inner energy in the real world is proving frustratingly slow. He can't afford to waste time training alone. He pulls up Hayami Ren's contact information, deciding to take a chance on a former enemy. He recalls their meeting, where Ren proposed they train together to build trust. Ren explained that since Cloyd skills can be practiced on Earth, they'd need a secure location. Most fixed teams rent private islands to train their powers without being seen. Ren had admitted that while Seo-woon was stronger, he himself was still a decent player. Seo-woon had agreed to consider the partnership, and they exchanged numbers. Back in the present, he makes the call. Ren is the only one who might understand. When Ren picks up, Seo-woon immediately tells him about the thugs who just tried to take him down. He confirms they were the so-called government's dogs he'd read about online. The news stuns Ren. It's almost unheard of for hunters to target a player on their second run. Ren presses him for details, asking what could have possibly attracted their attention. Seo-woon admits his mistake. He sold a magical necklace at a pawn shop. To avoid being traced, Ren reveals his own method for cashing out game items. He melts them down first. He then discloses his past as a notorious deep web hacker, an expert at covering his tracks. Seo-woon cuts to the chase, asking when they can start their joint training. Ren eagerly agrees and sets their first session for the very next day. The next day, Seo-woon waits at the rendezvous point, feeling events are moving faster than expected. A motorcycle pulls up, and Hayami Ren tells him to get on. Ren then casually opens a warp gate, claiming the trip to their training ground will take about an hour. But as he puts on his helmet, the truth hits him. Ren didn't just rent a space. He bought an entire mountain. Vowing to buy his own mountain, Seo-woon silently fumes over the indignity of clinging to a rich high schooler on a motorcycle. An hour later, they arrive at a vast, privately owned mountain range. The entire area is fenced off with private property signs, a testament to Ren's wealth. Seo-woon dryly comments on his hobby, but Ren clarifies this isn't his parents' money. Ren tells him he has the wrong idea about where his fortune comes from. Leaping through the air, he declares himself a profit-focused player who funds his lifestyle entirely with Cloyd loot. The revelation shatters Seo-woon's assumptions about his new partner. Ren explains his deep web knowledge allowed him to focus on bringing back items with real-world value from the very beginning. Ren casually lists his assets, multiple houses, a mountain, land, stock, and 80 million yen in cash. The scale of his wealth is beyond anything Seo-woon could have imagined. Ren stops short, sending Seo-woon tumbling to the ground. He ignores him completely, tossing out a strange purple crystal to create their training ground. Hayami Ren shows off his private training grounds, casually attributing the luxury to the power of money. He reveals a rare barrier stone, an artifact from Cloyd used to cloak the entire mountain in an invisibility field. The stone was custom-made on Earth, a loophole that allows for powerful new items that can't be taken back into the game. But before they can train, Ren issues a challenge, a one-on-one sparring match. He brandishes a powerful new staff, vowing to avenge his loss in the tutorial. He smirks, claiming a friendly spar is the only way to truly gauge each other's strength. Seo-woon's eyes narrow. You're seriously asking for a proper fight? Ren pulls his hood over his eyes. His pride will not allow him to hold back. Seo-woon tells his sentient weapon to stand down. This is a fight he'll handle himself. The match begins, and Ren wastes no time, lunging forward to press the attack. As Seo-woon closes the distance, Ren begins chanting a familiar spell. He unleashes Escrow's lightning bolt, a massive column of energy called down from the sky. Seo-woon effortlessly leaps into the air, soaring above the powerful magical assault. Now airborne, he channels his ki into a single decisive counterpunch. Ren raises his staff, conjuring a golden barrier to defend himself. Seo-woon's fist smashes against the shield. The barrier holds firm, absorbing the force of the blow. Ren boasts that his shield is fueled by his own magic power and won't break so easily. The sheer force of the defense tells Seo-woon everything. His rival has grown far stronger. It's time to get serious. He gathers his ki for the next move. Unleashing his martial phantom step, Seo-woon floods the battlefield with an army of clones. Unfazed, Ren counters with another of Escrow's signature spells, Chain Lightning. Arcs of pure electricity connect and incinerate the phantoms where they stand. The clones are torn apart by the raw magical onslaught, but the real Seo-woon weaves through the deadly currents completely unharmed. He smirks, reminding his opponent that he's not the only one who can command the elements. A massive ice lance materializes above him, a promise of overwhelming force. The icy projectile screams towards Ren, threatening to shatter him on impact. Ren erects a towering flame wall, intending to melt the incoming attack. He is certain his fire magic is more than enough to stop it. But Seo-woon uses the inferno as a screen, bursting through the blaze for a surprise punch. Ren sidesteps the blow with the agility of a trained fighter, not a mage. Seo-woon's attack passes harmlessly by. His opponent's reflexes are impressive. Suddenly, his follow-up attack is stopped cold by an unseen force. His feet are encased in ice, trapped by a hidden spell. Ren reveals his trap, Earthbinder, and mocks Sawun as a fake who only knows a few spells. Immobilized and seemingly helpless, Sawun can only look up from the trap. Believing he has his opponent right where he wants him, Ren unleashes the final lightning strike. The attack thunders down upon the defenseless figure. A body is engulfed in a torrent of raw, crackling energy. Hayami Ren smirks, believing he has finally claimed his victory. A voice from behind casually informs him he just executed a clone. As the illusion dissipates, the truth of his defeat crashes down on Ren. Sawun explains his stealth was perfect because Ren hasn't yet mastered his own inner energy. The fight was never a real contest. Sawun had been holding back the entire time. Ren admits his power-up came from a staff forged on Earth using materials from Cloyd. A staff with 90 magic amplification, crafted outside the game? The idea shatters Sawun's understanding of the rules. Ren explains a new economy is taking shape where smart players can exploit the gap between item value and coin cost. Players locked out of Cloyd have become alchemists, crafting items for survivors simply to make a living. Sawun contemplates the strange new world, where some fight for survival and others can simply craft for fun. Ren asks how many coins Sawun has earned. The answer, nearly 500, shatters his composure. In just 2 runs, Sawun has amassed a fortune that dwarfs Ren's own wealth. Ren's jaw hits the floor when he learns Sawun already spent it all on stat-boosting elixirs. But Sawun's rebuke is sharp. His obsession with money is exactly why his power remains so limited. Humbled in both combat and economics, Ren finally agrees it's time to eat. Elsewhere, a hulking figure receives a report. The Shinjuku faction has been wiped out. His agents report with a tremor in their voice. Their organization isn't the only one now watching Jin Sawun. They question why a player of his caliber would sell a legendary artifact, concluding it can only be a sign of terrifying confidence. The mysterious leader listens intently from his bath, a slow grin spreading across his face. His eyes glow red. This Jin Sawun is interesting, and he has just become a person of interest. On the first morning of their new training regimen, Jin Sawun prepares to test his limits. He focuses his inner energy, activating the martial phantom steps technique. He then unleashes his full power to see how many clones he can manifest. An entire army of phantom clones materializes around him. He strains, pushing past his known limits to create an 8th clone, discovering his absolute maximum. As he refines his own art, he glances over at his bombastic training partner. Hayami Ren proudly unleashes a lightning storm, scorching the earth around him. Even winded, Ren boasts that he can still cast far more. Sawun, unimpressed, cuts the session short for a meal, but once again he finds himself on kitchen duty. He interrupts Ren's phone call, demanding to know who he's been talking to. Ren casually reveals it was his little sister. Sawun can't help but make a snide remark about his wealthy family. But Ren's smile fades as he quietly admits his sister is his only family. The truth lands like a blow. Ren's parents passed away years ago. Ren simply says it's not a fun story, and that he didn't mind the assumptions. His story begins 4 years ago at his parents' funeral. He remembers the swarm of distant relatives, vultures picking at the scraps of their life. His uncle coldly informed him a realtor was on the way, more concerned with the house than the grieving children. Sometime later, his sister timidly asked for help with Parents' Day at her school. She was too scared to ask their aunt and uncle, pleading for her brother to do it. But the weight of it all was too much, and he lashed out, telling her to leave him alone. He stormed out, leaving her apologizing to an empty room. Afterwards, he collapsed outside her door, crushed by the new reality of his life. On top of his grief, he was also being savagely bullied at school. He retreated into the digital world, discovering a talent for hacking, and with it, a hidden site, Cloyd Survival. At first, the idea of such a death game seemed impossible. But the more he researched, the more he prayed for an invitation, a chance to change everything. Their world shrank when the lease ended, forcing them from their home into a cramped, semi-basement apartment. The squalor of their new life terrified his little sister. As he comforted her, he recalled his uncle blaming rising costs for the move. But then came the final crushing truth: his uncle had stolen their house deposit as well. The betrayal struck him like a physical blow. In that moment, holding his sister amidst the boxes of their broken life, he knew they were utterly alone. He ran into the streets, a scream of pure despair tearing from his throat. The world had abandoned him, and the injustice shattered his mind. But in the depths of his agony, something flickered at the edge of his vision. His prayer was answered. An invitation to Cloyd's survival materialized before his very eyes. Back in the present, Sawun asks if he ever got revenge on his bullies. Ren simply says he couldn't risk leaving his sister alone. Seo-woon sees him in a new light, not as a spoiled rich kid, but as a survivor. Ren assures him his sister is now safe, living with a caring aunt. Meanwhile, at the National Security Department, Administration Manager Naruse is livid. Her subordinate, Yoshida, insists he was only following orders to surveil the ability users. But his excuses fall on deaf ears. Naruse corners him, demanding to know why his reports are deliberately delayed. She stares him down, her patience worn to a thread. Yoshida stammers that it was just a simple mistake. For his mistake, she demolishes her desk with a single devastating punch. The force of the blow sends him flying into the wreckage. She looms over him, her voice dripping with ice. With glowing eyes, she proves she is one of the very monsters she is supposed to manage. Outside, her agents whisper about their boss's past. She was once a rising star in the intelligence agency, until she awakened her powers and was demoted to this dead-end post. The door opens, and the whispers fall silent. Naruse announces a disciplinary hearing and suspends Yoshida from all duties. His colleagues can only watch as he makes his walk of shame. Alone, she wonders if her team is incompetent or if they are spies sent by the higher-ups. Her superior's condescending words about a win-win situation only fuel her rage. Surrounded by the wreckage, she knows the truth. She isn't running a department, she's managing a time bomb. After 3 weeks of brutal joint training, Hayami Ren urges his partner not to hold back. They clash mid-air, their skills honed to a razor's edge. Seo-woon notes Ren's improved control over his inner energy. But Ren declares that his martial arts are just the beginning. He unleashes Escrow's flame, a massive fireball that scorches the air. Seo-woon meets the inferno head-on, countering with the unrestricted fist. By combining his martial art with spatial strike, his punch tears a hole through reality itself. He plows through the heart of the explosion, the flames parting before his might. Ren can only watch as his strongest magic is torn to shreds. In an instant, Seo-woon closes the distance and ends the match with a single, decisive blow. A defeated Ren staggers back, his hope of victory crushed once again. Seo-woon, however, commends his friend's growth, especially without his staff. He then reveals the training benefited him as well. He can now create 8 shadow clones. Back at Ren's mansion, Seo-woon prepares a meal he craved during the survival game, ramen. They eat, agreeing the simple meal is a world away from the jerky they once subsisted on. Seo-woon wonders how he built so much muscle eating nothing but ramen. Ren explains a theory: mastering inner energy allows for accelerated physical development. He then reveals that a mountain of work awaits him at his company, where he serves as president. The news that his high school-aged friend is a company president hits like a shockwave. Ren details the hidden world of survivor finances, where shell companies are used to launder money earned in the game. He then reveals he's already secured a new, high-security apartment for Seo-woon. A 20 million yen deposit, Seo-woon is floored by the astronomical price. Ren explains it's a necessary precaution to hide him from enemy organizations. He casually frames the massive deposit as a simple loan. He's certain Seo-woon will earn it all back in the very next game. With their training concluded, the two head out into the city. Seo-woon reflects on his journey from a cramped room to this, a life he never could have imagined. Ren shows him into the spacious new apartment, which is still unfurnished. Seo-woon can only admit it's far bigger than anything he's ever known. When Ren offers a housewarming gift, Seo-woon bristles at the thought of more debt. But he still offers a quiet, sincere thanks for everything. Ren gives a final smile and departs, leaving Seo-woon to his new life. Finally alone, Seo-woon releases his sentient weapon, Elsius Hammett, who complains about being sealed for a month. The spirit snidely remarks on their upgraded living situation. Seo-woon sits down to sort through his items, wishing he had a desk. But his heightened senses suddenly scream a warning, an unknown presence closing in. A massive explosion rocks the entire building, throwing him to the floor. He scrambles to the window to find the source of the blast. Across the street, an apartment building is engulfed in flames. His first day of peace is already shattered by some attention-seeking player. Just then, his doorbell chimes, putting him on high alert. Only Hayami Ren should know this address. Wary of an ambush, he prepares for a fight as he reaches for the door. But it's only a police officer, ordering an immediate evacuation. The immediate threat is gone, but the trouble is just beginning. Outside, another explosion sends the evacuated crowd into a panic. Standing among the chaos, Seo-woon scans the skyline for answers. He can't believe how brazen these players are. A third, even larger explosion rips through a nearby high-rise, escalating the mayhem. Amid the panic, Seo-woon's senses pick up something else: 8 players moving with purpose. They move like hunting dogs, and he knows the explosions are just a distraction. He slips into the shadows to see who they're hunting. Their target is a lone woman named Chris, her defensive items shattered and her energy spent. Surrounded by agents, she grips her spear, declaring she would rather die than be captured. She screams at her pursuers, who shattered the quiet life she had built. Sia-woon notes her exhaustion. She's outnumbered and about to be overwhelmed. The agent's leader gives the order, and the entire squad lunges at her at once. Facing certain capture, Chris whispers a final farewell to her captain, ready to make the ultimate sacrifice. But suddenly, a wave of ice erupts from the ground, freezing the agents in their tracks. A cloaked figure reveals himself, musing that his Ice Lance spell has more uses than he thought. An agent, his leg encased in solid ice, demands to know who dares to interfere. Sae-woon looks up, his gaze cold. You don't need to know. The leader seethes at the appearance of an ally, while Chris can only stare in disbelief. He scoffs, watching grown men gang up on a single-cornered woman, a pathetic sight. As government agents ambush a lone player, Sia-woon erupts from the shadows, encasing them in ice. He warns her of the ambush, but the player, Chris, is frozen by the sudden appearance of her mysterious savior. Caught completely off guard, Chris can only brace for a fight alongside the hooded stranger. Before the agents can regroup, Sae-woon is already behind one, his hand closing over the man's face. There is no contest. He slams his opponent into the ground with overwhelming force. With the immediate threat neutralized, Chris demands to know who he is and what organization he serves. But the fight isn't over. The remaining agents ready their blades to capture them both. He criticizes her for not taking the opening he created to escape. He tells her that no matter how many times she's cleared the tower, her situational awareness is abysmal. Ignoring him, Chris channels her power, refusing to be captured so easily. She unleashes a devastating new moon slash, tearing through their ranks. One agent, identifying himself as Stockpile, sneers that they've handled players before. But Sia-woon appears directly behind him, his voice laced with contempt for the man's arrogance. The agent's blood runs cold. The cloaked man was there the entire time. A single unrestricted fist strike ends the confrontation. Chris is left speechless. No one this powerful should be a complete unknown. With the fight over, Sia-woon grabs her without a word. He tells her he's getting them out of there. And with a powerful leap, he carries them both away from the scene. He finds a secluded rooftop and unceremoniously drops her to the ground. She protests his rough handling, but he dismisses her as a noisy woman. She presses him again, asking if he's from another resistance group since he's clearly not with the government. His answer is a simple, unhelpful no. He grabs her shoulder, dismissing himself as a mere passerby. He warns her to lay low because he won't be saving her a second time. As he vanishes, she desperately chases after him, asking for his name. But he leaves without a trace, already questioning why he even got involved. Back in his empty apartment, Hammett calls him merciful, but Sae-woon just brushes it off. His solitude is broken by a call from an unexpected number, Ren. Ren saw the news reports and immediately called, worried for his safety. Sae-woon downplays it, confirming he was there but wasn't the target. Ren can't believe his terrible luck, finding trouble on the very day he moved in. With no furniture, So-woon fashions a makeshift bed out of toilet paper. He admits to Ren that he had planned to just watch from the sidelines. But he couldn't stand by while government agents ganged up on one woman. Ren points out the hypocrisy. In the tower, Sia-woon wouldn't have hesitated to kill them all. He boasts that his cloak of hiding kept his identity a secret. Still, Ren warns him that attracting the government's attention would be a disaster. Sia-woon agrees. He's not ready to lose the quiet life he just found. Meanwhile, at a hospital, manager Naru surveys the results of the failed operation. Her expression is cold steel as she enters the ward. She confronts one of her injured subordinates, demanding a report. The agent stammers, shocked by her sudden appearance. He recounts the ambush, explaining they were overwhelmed by an unknown player. Her fury erupts. This was an unsanctioned operation conducted behind her back. She demands to know who gave the order. The botched mission has not only failed, but has also drawn unwanted attention online. The agent is about to speak, when a voice from the doorway cuts him off. The general manager enters, coolly admitting he approved the mission. Naruse immediately confronts him, challenging his authority to act without her consent. He claims it was a time-sensitive opportunity that couldn't wait for her return. When she demands he take responsibility for the failure, he just smirks. He's already covered his tracks with their superiors. Powerless, Naruse can only clench her fist as he lectures her. He patronizingly tells her that failure is just part of the job in the field. With a dismissive wave, he leaves her to clean up his mess. Left seething, she takes her anger out on her subordinate. A few days later, Ren lectures So-woon on his reckless behavior. Ren lays out the worst-case scenario, but Sia-woon seems completely unfazed. Seo-won explains that government agents are already all over the neighborhood. But he believes they're looking for Chris, and the safest place for him is right under their noses. Changing the subject, he asks Ren about the term stockpile. Ren explains they're non-players who use items to gain abilities, weaker than a true player, but still dangerous. Just then, another call comes in. It's an old friend, yelling at him for not answering his phone. The voice belongs to Shohei, who invites him to a birthday party for their friend Naoki. The invitation hits like a lightning bolt. In his new life as a player, he had completely forgotten his old one. A call from an old friend shatters Seo-won's peace. He's completely forgotten about a high school reunion. Junpei insists he come, promising free drinks at their old rival Naoki's expense. But Seo-won isn't moved until Junpei drops a name from his past, Mina. The memory of his first love stops him cold. He's thrown back to his first year of high school when he fell for her instantly. It was the kind of crush that consumed him, driving him to beg friends just to spend more time with her. After a year of waiting, he finally summoned the courage to confess his feelings. But she walked away, leaving him utterly crushed. Even now, the sting of that rejection lingers. Ren, having listened to the entire call with his magic, smirks. Is she your first love? Seo-won tries to brush it off, but Ren confirms he heard every painful detail. Against his better judgment, he agrees to hear Ren's foolproof confession technique. The first step, strike at an unexpected moment, denying them time to think. The grand strategy? Just look her in the eye and say it. Seo-won is not impressed. Yet Ren boasts this simplistic method has never failed him. Seo-won is left with nothing but skepticism for his roommate's romantic advice. Finally, he tells Ren exactly what he thinks of his smug attitude. As he leaves, Ren can't resist one last jab, wishing him luck on his confessions. The next day, Seo-won meets his friend Junpei, complaining he had to wait. Junpei greets him cheerfully, brushing off his grumbling. His friend takes a long look, noting that the awkward high school kid is gone. As one of his few true friends, Junpei asks about his plans after dropping out of college. They walk to Junpei's new car, a purchase Seo-won knows only his friend who started working right after school could afford. On the way, Junpei asks if he brought a gift for their host, Naoki. They arrive at a restaurant so luxurious, Seo-won knows their host is just showing off his wealth. Inside, they're greeted by a chorus of old nicknames and familiar faces. An old friend grabs his shoulder, stunned by how much muscle he's put on. Seo-won just calls it light exercise, downplaying the brutal training that forged his new body. But all conversation stops when his eyes lock onto a new arrival. It's Naoki, and on his arm is Mina, the very girl Seo-won came to see. Naoki greets him with a smug smile, oozing condescension. He tells Seo-won to eat up, assuming he hasn't had a decent meal in ages. Seo-won's gaze drifts to Mina, but Naoki yanks his attention back. With a patronizing pat, Naoki dismisses him, telling him to just enjoy the free food. As the group moves to the table, Seo-won is left to swallow his anger. Lost in the noise of the party, he remembers the person he used to be, Haruto Aoyama, the gloomy outcast. Drowning his frustrations, he now understands why Naoki, who won the parental lottery, keeps him around. He is the entertainment, the failure everyone uses to feel better about themselves. The gossip turns to Naoki's aggressive attempts to win over Mina. They speculate that Mina, who now works at Naoki's father's company, is only using him for her career. Junpei turns to him, demanding to know what he's going to do about it. But Seo-won just deflects, claiming it's all in the past while praising the expensive meat. Naoki cuts in, remarking that the meat is far too expensive for someone like Seo-won to ever afford on his own. He questions Seo-won's constant drinking, but Seo-won just claims he's happy to see everyone. Naoki tells him to stop ruining the mood with his gloomy face. Leaning in, he offers to help with whatever pathetic problems Seo-won might have. Through a tight smile, Seo-won plays along, acknowledging his luck at having such a generous friend. As he pours a drink, Naoki sneers that life is tough without status. The last thread of Seo-won's patience snaps. Naoki boasts to the table that Seo-won has always been a perfect little servant even in high school. He raises his glass, praising him for knowing his place. But as Naoki drinks, Seo-won's hand moves, setting his own glass down with a quiet, deliberate click. He looks Naoki in the eye and calmly tells him he's had enough to drink. A friend tries to de-escalate, reminding them they're all here to have fun. But Naoki explodes, slamming the table and demanding to know who Seo-won thinks he is. The air grows cold as Seo-won's demeanor shifts from passive to menacing. Naoki scoffs, calling him a loser and telling him to act like one. Seo-won rises from his seat, his patience finally extinguished. As Naoki continues to rage, Hammett appears, asking for the order to silence him permanently. The other friends scramble to hold Naoki back, blaming Haruto for provoking him. Naoki struggles, screaming that Seo-won is the one who needs to apologize. Across the room, Mina can only watch the chaos unfold. Suwon has had enough. This was a mistake. He turns to leave, calling Naoki's king act pathetic. As he walks away, Naoki's threats to kill him echo in the air. Alone on the street, he resolves to leave this part of his life behind for good. Elsewhere, Tatsuya, leader of the Stockpile faction, laments that government interference has made tracking their target difficult. His subordinate, a master of mind techniques, reports he is on standby for the mission. Tatsuya praises his subordinate's progress, promising him more ancient texts to master. He reminds the man that such books will be useless once he becomes a fixed players, a permanent resident of Cloyd. Suddenly, an agent bursts into the room with urgent news. They haven't found the escaped woman. They found the man who helped her, Jin Sawon. A predatory smile spreads across Tatsuya's face as he gives the order to gather his top men. The time for waiting is over. The hunt is on. Jin Sawon wakes to the punishing aftermath of a high school reunion. As always, his sentient weapon Hammett is there to offer its unwelcome opinion. He centers himself, circulating his chi to burn the alcohol from his system. Just as his head clears, an unexpected call comes through. It's his mother. His father's surgery was a success, and he's coming home. For the first time in a long while, he promises to join them for a normal family meal. But as he walks, the need for money gnaws at him, and he wonders how long he must wait for the next Cloyd game. At Story University Hospital, his father gives his thanks, his health finally restored. His father apologizes for using his tuition money, but Seo-woon waves it off with a lie. He tells them his new job pays well and that he's happy to postpone college for now. To celebrate, he leads them to a restaurant he knows. His parents worry about the price, but he brushes their concerns aside. This time, he insists the meal is on him. Seeing them smile so freely is a sight he hasn't witnessed in years. As they leave, he discreetly slips his mother an envelope full of cash. She tries to refuse, but he insists they take it after everything they've sacrificed for him. His parents finally accept, telling him to be careful on his way home. But standing alone on the street, his moment of peace is about to be shattered. Hammett's voice cuts through the quiet, warning of a hostile presence closing in. These aren't amateurs, they're professionals, expertly concealing their energy. Now certain he's being hunted, Seo-woon decides to set a trap. They won't attack in a crowd, so he'll let them think their target is oblivious, biding his time at a movie theater. Hours later, as he exits the cinema, night has fallen. Under the full moon, he knows the time for a confrontation is near. Just then, Hammett reports that pursuers have lowered their guard, giving away their positions. There are many, but he senses only 3 are a genuine threat. He heads for a more secluded location, leading the hunters into his killing ground. A deserted park pavilion, the perfect stage for what's to come. He unleashes a powerful burst of chi, a taste of what awaits them. Then, using his cloud stride, he vanishes into thin air. The members of the Stockpile faction can only stare as their target disappears. Their leader, Tatsuya, can't believe the speed, and his subordinate Tatsumi admits his own eyes couldn't follow. Over the comms, the team confirms the target is gone. The third member, a mage named Shido, reports his side is clear as well. Tatsuya's fury erupts. 3 of them lost a single man. From the shadows, Seo-woon listens, hearing them mention becoming fixed players. They're a fixed team in the making, which means this fight will allow for no mistakes. Suddenly, Tatsuya calls out, trying to bait him from his hiding spot. He makes a fatal error, threatening Seo-woon's family to force him into the open. Seo-woon scoffs, they aren't warriors, they're nothing but thugs. Done with the games, he drops from the trees, and Tatsuya recognizes him instantly. Flanked by his lieutenants, the leader listens as Seo-woon dismisses their entire faction. He tells them he's known they were following him all day, calling them nothing more than sewer rats. The insult draws a menacing smile from Tatsuya, and from his necklace, Hammett cackles, hungry for the coming slaughter. Seo-woon wraps his fists, promising they will regret forcing his hand. But first, he activates his daily random skill. The system lands on electric shocks. Lightning crackles around his knuckles as he prepares to put the new power to use. Tatsuya scoffs at his confidence and charges forward. He roars at Seo-woon not to underestimate the 3 musketeers of NWCs. The leader closes the distance in an instant, his blade aimed to kill. But Seo-woon calmly prepares to meet the attack. He reads the sloppy movement, spotting a fatal opening for a counter, but just as he moves to strike, Hammett screams a warning. The shield-bearer, Tatsumi, slides in from nowhere, his shield deflecting the killing blow. Tatsumi warns his leader that their target is far more dangerous than they anticipated. The coordinated defense changes everything. He's not fighting a mob, but a true, fixed team. And before he can recover, the mage Shido finishes his incantation. A colossal rock elemental erupts from the ground, summoned to the battlefield. Suddenly, an unfamiliar voice cries out a new command, Thunderstrike. A massive bolt of lightning descends from the heavens, shattering the golem to pieces. It's Hayamiren, arriving just in the nick of time. Sia-woon confirms these are the players who have been hunting him. The stockpile members can only stare. Their target has a fixed member of his own. He had fought alone for so long, but now, with an ally at his side, the real game had just begun.